Yeah.
Yeah, do it. Hit him with an intro.
ALITE. This is the High Phrase Podcast.
Yes, sir.
The highest and the flyest of the podcasts that you could possibly hear. Practicing nepotism, like I said in my Instagram story
It's
earlier.
amazing that this has come today. This is amazing.
It has come down to it.
On the constant quest of getting every single one of your family members onto the podcast, today we have the man.
Yes, Amir in the house.
How's it going, man?
Great.
Man.
And of course, the one and only.
That doesn't matter about me. I don't matter in this sense today because today, your bro
All right.
is coming from one of my favorite places in all of radio.
This is very interesting.
And I'll tell you the reason why. And we're going to get into the proper shit in really quick.
Pressure's on.
But do you know that my record right now for contests with CKNW
No way.
is 4 for 4. I am
Really?
4 for 4 in contests.
Wow.
Anytime, and let this be something out. If you think you're going to go on a contest and take me down,
Not
ain't
happening.
Dude, 4 for 4. I won Mariah Carey concert tickets.
Damn.
I won
cow.
Stevie. No, it wasn't. I won. I think Stevie was with Mariah. No. I won Mariah Carey. I won. Wrestling tickets. Wow. I won 2 other stupid ones. I didn't go. Elton John. I won the Elton John competition.
That was a big giveaway. Yeah.
Right, and then I won the Paul McCartney. I gave them all away.
Wow.
Gave them away. They're like, you're giving away Paul McCartney
Paul
tickets?
McCartney.
Dude, I'm like, if I want to go see a 7-year-old sing, I'll just go downtown and see the homeless people.
So you just play for bragging rights then?
It's all about the glory.
So wait. I gotta go back to Paul McCartney. So you're not a Beatles fan?
I am a Beatles fan. Sort of a Beatles fan. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge Beatles fan.
Are you more Lennon Beatle or?
Going after what Beatle?
Yeah, Lennon or McCartney? Cause I'm diehard Lennon.
See, I'm a huge Beatles fan, but I'm not a Paul McCartney solo fan.
Right.
Ringo.
Oh wow.
No.
And I'll tell you why. Ringo had one of the best
Unsung
one-hit
hero.
wonder songs.
What song?
I don't remember, but it was a fucking good one. I was like, oh, la, la. It was really happy. It makes you happy whenever you listen to it. The reason why I like Ringo is because Ringo will do a line of Blocaine or heroin
Shit.
or fentanyl,
Ringo
whatever it is
getting
he's doing
down.
these days, and he'll say afterwards, and this is true because I know a person who was in a line when he did a line like that. He was in a room. He said,
Crazy.
"Fuck the Beatles, man. Fuck Paul McCartney.
Wow.
I was the Beatles, damn it."
Wow. Ringo's seen better days then.
Gets all wacky. He gets all wacky on the nose candy.
So you had no curiosity. I'm not even an Elton John fan, but you had no curiosity to go see those two legends for free.
Apparently Elton's like really good live.
Yeah. And here's my thing, and this is really what's going to lead us into a great conversation about Black History Month. Because I don't like seeing old white honkies in concert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The reason why I gave tickets away is because I am in the belief that you should always stay in your lane.
Okay.
And that it's great to expand and everything, but once you find something that's in somebody's lane, you have to give it to them. I wasn't alive to enjoy Elton John. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't in the days when he was coming out with Yellow Brick Road, one of the best albums of all time, rock albums, right? I wasn't there when Paul McCartney was dropping gems on people, you know what I mean? But the people I gave the tickets to were, and I wanted them to experience
So you don't
that.
feel like you've earned that experience of seeing those people live?
Well,
maybe?
like Ice Cube.
Okay.
Okay, so I got tickets for Ice Cube, won tickets, whatever. And I'm like, I went with my friend, Cam. Did I go with you, Cam? I think so. I went with the white dude, did the thing, right? And Ice Cube didn't play any one of his classic songs.
What?
He played new stuff, and he played like, It Was a Good Day was the only song he played from the old. And I was really disappointed. And I realized like right there that, you know what, screw concerts. You know what I mean? Like you go because it's nostalgic for you. Don't go expecting anything great. Just go because it's nostalgic. And so that's how I kind of look at events.
Wow.
So if I go to see someone, I'm going to go see older artists. You know what I mean? Ones that I kind of have a connection with. If I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I've seen Cube 3 times. One with West Side Connection, 2 solo, and he murdered it.
Yeah,
but
he
I get
murdered
it
it.
because we got to see Snoop last year, 2 years ago when he came, and Afro Man was opening, and it was a fucking hot box,
Yeah.
front to back.
Yeah.
And we were lighting up. Jay's security wasn't even saying a word. It was whatever. But Snoop did all of his hits
That's huge.
all in a row, and then went into his gospel stuff and went into his reggae stuff, and then everyone kind of tuned out. But he gave you all the goods first.
That's good.
Yeah, it was amazing. Snoop's the king, man.
That's because the concert he did in Victoria was a totally different story. He did it on the night of UFC, and I forget what the big match. I think it was GSP fighting that night. But he had a concert, and the UFC went overtime. So Snoop decided he was going to stay and watch UFC in his hotel while the arena's packed, waiting for Snoop for 2 hours. And then he came. He did a 20-minute set and bounced. He was so angry. I heard
It sucks.
from the same guy who was doing lines with Ringo Starr that Snoop lost money on UFC and was so angry that he only splooshed a 20-minute nut on the crowd and then bounced. And that's really crappy. I mean, like, it's crappy when artists do that because we hold these people up so freaking high and we strive to be them in some capacity. You know that if we were them, we do better than them. You know what I mean? It fucking just bugs me when celebrities don't do their job.
I had one of those experiences with Jay-Z when he first came here, Hard Knock Life tour, and he was way too ahead of the Van City crowd. Remember that song, Back That Ass Up?
Yep. We weren't ready for that.
Okay, so remember before that, he made a song called Huh? Juvenile has a song called Huh? So Jay-Z would take that instrumental and freestyle over it.
Oh, yeah.
And he was doing a lot of his older catalog, Reasonable Doubt and stuff, and nobody in Vancouver knew the lyrics to any of the songs. So he's getting to the hook, and he's doing the 22 twos, and no one has any idea. And this went on for like 5-6 songs, and he stopped the show for a second, and he actually got mad at the crowd. Yeah. It's like, y'all don't know my fucking material, my music, blah, 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 went on. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to give you all a test. And he kind of teased that Juvenile beat in the background. Everyone's getting hyped up. And then he's about to drop his freestyle. And then the crowd just kind of dies down because they don't know what he's going to, they don't know his thing. But I got to give him props, though. That was the one time. And he said he'd never come to Vancouver again. And then he was invited a few years later to Penticton for that big music festival that they have there. Yeah. And he had an incredible experience. And then every time he's come after that, I've seen him like 4 times since then. It's been incredible shows.
Yeah, but good night, Vancouver. Oh, you're already in bed? Oh,
pretty much. It was whack. It was whack.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any excuse for that because you're still, paying for this experience.
Hell yeah.
Give people half a show.
Dude, what is your most memorable concert experience?
Yeah, I was gonna ask him.
I haven't had as many as you guys probably. In the hip hop scene, I saw Kanye after he dropped. What was it? Call the Drop It or late? Which was the one he did with Bernie Mac? Where Bernie Mac and him basically told the story through the album. I think it was Late Registration.
It must have been. It wasn't called
the Gold Digger album.
Yeah.
Anyways, that album, before he kind of went psycho.
Yeah.
And it was a great show. He told a story throughout the concert as well.
That's dope.
It was one of my first big concerts and definitely a memorable one. But most of the concerts that I've been to are more in the rock genre, like people like Soundgarden and Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, nice.
Stuff. That's more my style. So
could we be more different?
Yeah, you guys have real different music styles.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because growing up, I got his and my eldest brother's musical influences. But then in high school, I was in a different world, and most of my friends listened to like punk and rock and stuff. So that's how I got that influence. And so I still listen to a lot of hip hop and R&B, but it's mostly older stuff, not so much the new stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is like your expectation when you go to work on the radio? Like, what do you, I know you show up and I've heard you on there and I'm just putting it together that I've been listening to. I'm like, hey, I like that guy on there, right? Like, I liked his voice, right? I wasn't even putting it together.
Let them know what you do first and then
I'm a technical and content producer, which essentially entails the content producer part is me chasing guests down to do an interview, grabbing audio that will play for certain interviews that, say we're talking about Horgan saying something, I'll grab that clip of Horgan. And then the technical side, I'm on the board, so I'm monitoring the levels, I'm running the audio, I'm playing the music in and out of segments and that kind of thing, going to commercials, coming back. So that's my role. But I also do on-air contributing, so sometimes I'll put features together. You've heard some of them.
Yeah, definitely features,
That's essentially it. Yeah.
Cool. Is that where's radio going?
It's interesting because in Vancouver specifically, talk radio for starters versus other radio, you have to distinguish the two because talk radio and music radio are in two different worlds. Where in most markets right now, talk radio seems to be dying, and because of podcasts, honestly, a lot of
we're killing radio.
On the West Coast, in Vancouver, talk radio is still
Huge.
we're one of the top stations
Yeah.
in the city, like top 3
Easily.
overall.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how other markets are moving into more streaming and digital stuff, where CKNW, because they've been around for so long, 76, 77 years this year maybe.
Damn.
Wow.
They've got that tradition,
That's a
and that
legacy.
lineage. So there's generations of people that are listening to it, sort of passing it down onto their kids now. We focus a lot on community stuff, so we're talking to real people. And what we do matters. You know, we often see things play out where, because we talked about it, things are changing because politicians are reacting. You know, people in charge of things are reacting.
So you guys feel like you have an effect on like popular
Yeah, and
discourse?
it's really cool to see that, you know, what you talk about on the radio actually pans out into, you know, action in the streets and and stuff like that.
So how do you feel being like, because obviously you're a minority representation at one of these kind of stations, does that play into any of the content you create?
For sure. It's celebrated, I would say. It's something that the company that I work for has taken an active role in trying to cultivate. They know that I come from a diverse background, that I have opinions that obviously no one else will really have, an upbringing that nobody else there will really have, and they invite me to do whatever I want with it, essentially, which is really all you can
pretty
ask
amazing.
for
Yeah.
from an employer, is to give you creative freedom to do whatever you want, you know, within the confines of what's acceptable on the airwaves.
Yeah, they seem pretty like liberal, I guess is the word we can say there, right? Like, 'cause they seem pretty on top of things. Like living in Vancouver and being a Vancouver station, you should be more diverse. You have to be.
You have to be, for
It's
sure.
the only way you survive, right? You know what I mean? Like, but what I notice about that station is there's no people of color main people.
It would be tough.
Well, the morning show, Simi Sarah.
Simi Sarah.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm going to say shout out to you, Simi. I know I slip in your DMs a whole lot and tell you. No, I do. I tell her a lot of things, like how great she's doing, because I fucking love Simi.
That's dope.
I love Simi. I watched her on breakfast television. When I was in jail, I watched her. You were always on my mind, boo. And she and to this day, whenever Simi does a contest, that's who I win it from. It's Simi. I don't know if she's fixing it or she's not. I know she's not. She's so good. She's like, yeah, she's Simi. She's the one person I'd like to meet from there, right? And I just kind of kick it with Simi, right? Be on the show.
So do you feel any pressure to provide content based on who you are
that's a
as
good question.
representation? Yeah.
I only put that pressure on myself. I don't get that kind of pressure from other people. I definitely get creative suggestions from people that I work with, but no, there's never any pressure. But I definitely have put that pressure on myself internally to.
Is it hard in Vancouver to find that content?
No,
specifically?
not at all. There's so many groups that represent diversity. You know, regardless of what group you're looking at, what ethnic group you're looking at. You know, there's people that represent Chinese people. There's people that represent the South Asian community. So definitely not a challenge. There's definitely sometimes you got to dig a little harder, but no, it's not challenging at all, I would say. And you still have to put in the effort to do it. So maybe some people would say it's challenging because they're not putting in that effort, but. For me, no, it's not really too much of a challenge.
Do they have like an agenda or a schedule for Black History Month?
No, not at all.
Interesting.
That's again part of sort of letting the teams kind of
Do their thing.
handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that with like Hogan's Alley and that representation, and there would be some reference and significance to it. But how would they approach it if they don't have the
It's tough.
representation to approach it?
That's true. Yeah.
You don't want to be tone deaf going into something that has so much magnitude for so many people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year I spoke with a representative of the Hogan's Alley Foundation. I also spoke with a black author last year, Desmond Cold, who wrote The Skin We're In about racism all across Ontario and Canada, basically. So I've made an effort to try and... But see, that's if we're going to be talking about Black history, that's kind of where we're, at least me personally, trying to not relegate it all into 1 month. Because I think it does a disservice to Black history.
100%.
Totally.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, Black culture has had a more prominent influence than any other culture globally. Globally. You see it everywhere. There's no denying it. I mean, hip-hop is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Hip-hop's the largest musical export on the planet. Every corner of the world, every language you can imagine, people are rapping, right?
It's true.
And Black culture created that.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think you can put any culture into a month, let alone Black culture. It's probably the richest culture and the most dated culture as far as, going back ancestrally. But I mean, these kind of gestures are symbolic at best.
They are.
Right?
I actually pulled a quote from what Desmond Cole, I asked him about it because I interviewed him 2 Februaries ago. And what he had said is he considers Black history a colonial property. Like, here, you can have this. We'll honor you in the ways that we think you make Canada look better. So that limits the amount of Black history they cover. If it's not going to make Canada look good, they're not going to talk about it. Which is, I thought about that over the course of this day, knowing that we were going to have this conversation. It's totally true. When do they ever cover Black reality? They cover historic events that celebrate, rightfully so, great Black people in Canadian history, but there's so much that they're missing out on, I think.
Well, when you think about it, the idea of Black people being oppressed in Canada there wasn't even a light shown on it until George Floyd died.
Pretty much.
I mean, obviously, if you are involved in the activist community, you know that there's groups that have been actively pushing for these kind of things to be known about. But mainstream, the protests really exploded last summer, right? With George Floyd passing. So historically, there hasn't even been that reference that Black people suffered in Canada.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first survivors of the Underground Railroad ended up in Canada, ended up in Nova Scotia. They settled Nova Scotia first.
And I think that's exactly how it escalated the conversation in Canada, was because there was all these people, leaders and politicians, saying there's no racism in Canada. There's no systemic racism in Canada. And then Black activists like this author and other people came out and said, look, we have a history of racism in Canada, sometimes just as bad as in America. So why are we hiding from that? And we're still hiding from that.
I think, from a really, might sound shitty, but I think from just judging and watching Canadian behavior over the past 40 years, it seems like Canadians don't get lit up by racism as much as Americans. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost as if, you know what I mean? Like, we don't get fired up about it because it almost seems like we've been desensitized because we allow so many cultures into our country. We have so many different cultures here. And so we've kind of stopped, in a weird way, talking outright about racism, right? Because if you're a white guy and you have an Indian friend and a Black friend and a Chinese friend, and then you have other friends that don't like that race, you kind of have to pick sides here, right? Yeah. Especially as a white guy in BC, just say BC. You have a brown friend, you have a white friend, chances are your white friends are talking shit about the brown guys, right? And so you have to walk that line a lot of the time. So racism kind of gets becomes just part of the culture in a weird way.
Yeah, I think it's, so as far as how Black people suffered in the U.S. and the way Indigenous people suffered in Canada, there's a direct parallel, right?
Yeah.
And the scars that were left from what happened to Indigenous people in Canada are across the country. Yeah. You still see it today. You still see generations that are still suffering from being in residential schools and being oppressed and raped and put into these patterns and cycles of addiction. You see the scars, and Canada can't ignore it. Worldwide, they talk about what happened to Indigenous people in Canada, the same way worldwide they talk about what happened to Black people in the U.S. The scars aren't as obvious for what happened to the Black communities in Canada. So it's easier to say, there were no
Well, it's
people
because we drill it into our kids
trees,
at a young age that there was nothing wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
In the States, they talk about oppression at a young age.
Yeah.
In Canada, we don't. We talk about, and think about social studies here.
Joke.
Wasn't it a joke? Legislature, make sure you remember the legislature and executive branch, all these stupid things.
We didn't even learn
matter.
that. I don't remember learning about the branches of government in my social studies class.
We had a course on residential schools, but it just documented the history, not whether the history was right or wrong.
Yeah.
So this was what happened, but never gave kids the critical thinking element of look at this and how awful it was. We never got that.
Yeah, it's like we downplay racism in this country so hard, man. To a point where it's like we're Canadian. This is the sentiment is we're not racist. We're Canadian.
Yeah.
We're Canadian.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And you think about all of the Indigenous issues that we have grown up with listening to, which kind of fades all of the other talk of all the other cultures and all the religion, all the racism they're suffering, because we've been kind of systematically pointed towards Indigenous rights in a weird way and having an opinion on that instead of having a massive world opinion on everything else, right?
Well, here's the crazy thing, man. Growing up, we weren't shown that. The slant that we were shown through the people that were educating us was that the Indigenous people were being takers. That they were just beggars asking and asking and asking. They weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
But obviously we weren't told about residential schools and about
Didn't learn about that.
mass murder. We weren't told about those things. So even the idea of Christopher Columbus being a discoverer, we just thought that was normal.
Bullshit.
We didn't question it in high school. I don't know if you did, but I didn't question it in high school.
I didn't care.
We were just because there were no details. There were no details about him, enslaving indigenous girls and giving them to his, his cabin mates and horrible stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the idea in the slant was that they were just takers. So growing up, that was the identification that we had of it until we self-taught.
Yeah.
That's the only way we learned.
Until the internet came.
Yeah. Or you go to the library, you take out one of those big ass books, and you read for
Dewey
fucking
Decimal
weeks,
System.
right? Shout out Dewey Decimal System.
Shout out.
But yeah, no. So if you don't self-educate about these problems, then your chances are you're going to grow up with the same slant that indigenous people are not doing anything to better the situation, that just takers. The same kind of sentiment you get from racist Americans about black people in the U.S., right? But who's going to make these motherfuckers educate themselves?
Yeah, the other thing on that was when I was in high school and even in elementary school, I didn't have. Maybe there was one person that I went to school with who was actually indigenous. I had no source for this sort of information or point of reference, which would have been super helpful if I went to school with people who could relate and could talk about, or maybe somebody in socialist class who could, put their hand up and say, my grandma or whatever. So we had none of that context, which would have been, again, super helpful.
That's interesting to think. Like, I didn't have many indigenous guys in my high school either. Like, I wonder if that's maybe just was all part of the master plan of keeping indigenous kids out of cities.
100% out of public schools.
You know what I mean? Like, we grew up with this, thought that, like you said, it's a burden. These people are burdens on our society and stuff, right? And that thinking got into their heads, and it took down their culture as well for many, many years. I mean, everybody knows that, right?
Okay, so this is a fucked up story, okay? This goes back to 1994. And a long motherfucking time ago, the late 19th century, my kids would say.
I was 6 years old.
Wow. Okay, so I'm in high school, and I had an amazing teacher that thought that we should put together a book drive, pencil, pen drive for schools in the Lower Mainland that didn't have the facilities. Yeah. So there's an elementary school on Hastings Street called John A. McDonald. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
I know that school.
Okay. So we were going to go there and drop some books and stuff to their school. And the idea was to meet their students that were the same age as us and kind of like, collaborate for future things. And it was like a nice project, right? Yeah. So we get to the school, and the teacher tells us in advance, this is not a regular school. You're going to see things that might make you uncomfortable, but there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah. That's kind of the idea that she gave me. So we're standing in this class, 6 of us in front of this class of kids that we don't know, all awkward as fuck, just with boxes of stuff to give them. And no knock at the door. An adult man comes into the room, just opens the door, takes a 13-year-old, well, I guess 14-year-old at the time, by our arm and just leaves the class. Wow. No one says anything. No one does anything. Yeah. Me, my teacher, and the other 5 students were all like, what the
Was it Prince Philip?
Could have been. Probably wasn't. But it turns out that in the school they had a problem with pimps. Oh, and they would come into the classrooms and take their girls out of class. This is just 94.
Yeah, pimps were crazy back then.
Okay, but you got to understand, in my school, we had fights and shit. Teachers would always show up and break it up. Nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah.
And majority of the kids in that school were indigenous kids. So they were just kind of like fed into the system of criminal activity before they even knew how to be a kid.
Crazy.
94, man. That's not a long time ago.
Kind of was, but yeah, but I remember all the pimps growing up with all the pimps. It was
bad.
Then.
This is so weird to me.
You never grew up with pimps, and this is not a great Black History Month fucking topic. But
we'll get back
growing
there.
up with pimps was a real deal. Like, these kids don't understand what pimps really were and what they did.
Name of the episode: Growing Up with Pimps.
Growing up with pimps. Buddy, these guys were weird dudes, man.
Dude, there was a pimp running a brothel right outside of John Oliver Secondary School in grade 9. And he was a brown guy. Yeah. And if I told you the family name, you'd know, but we're not going to go there. But this sounds fucking horrible. Okay, he would pimp his baby cousin out. And built up his clientele from there. And it was right across the school from our high school, John Oliver High School. Yeah. Pimping ain't easy.
No, dude.
But now it's dead.
Pimp by blood, not relation, right?
But
fucking sad. It's so weird to think about pimping and about how we we condoned that shit in the 90s. Dude, we condoned pimping in the 90s. We held pimps up on high. Look at
Glorified.
Snoop.
Too short?
Too short. They made their legends off of being pimps. And now we just kind of, we're like, that's nothing. It's just it's a Snoop. If Snoop better be shaking in his pants if he doesn't have hoes that come back at him from back in the 90s, right? But then that could be a badge of honor. Like, I was straight pimping back in the 90s. These girls are coming at me now in 2020.
The saddest part about that is it was the sex workers that got demonized, not the pimps behind the operation.
It was such a weird time in the 90s. That's why our 90s podcast is going to be so good.
Well, because the
pimps all the time.
the pimps were men, right?
Yeah.
Men
Well,
men get a pass in this kind of criminality, right?
pass.
But dude, sex workers are an essential service as long as it's dictated by the sex worker.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Because there are people out there that need love, and if there's a sex worker that can dictate the terms of what goes down, I'm all for it. It's just like an OnlyFans without the actual physical interaction.
I've never been in the presence of a sex worker.
Like you asked?
Unless I was in jail with her. But other than that, I have never been there. I've never picked up the phone and called a sex worker. I don't even know. I would feel so awkward.
Yeah.
I'd be like, because I need to have some kind of conversation before any action.
You got to know somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, paying somebody
It's
for
so
that
weird
is
to me.
so
It's
weird.
just a whole
But
weird
dude, you got to
thing.
understand, man. There's guys out there that are in their 30s that have never had sex. Forget sex. Never kissed a girl before.
Yeah.
We know a couple.
We
Yeah,
do,
I do.
unfortunate souls that have
I've
never
met people.
experienced. And if the only way they're ever going to get laid is by paying for it.
Yep.
And it's,
I
again,
agree.
consensual.
Yep. Yep.
Nothing to say about that.
No, there's nothing. I saw a YouTube video about a girl that just services handicapped people.
Wow.
And this was like on a Vice thing. You can look that up on Vice. And she just, this guy's paralyzed, whatever. She shows up, services them, and then it's done. And I'm like, Jesus, that's an easy fucking job. If I was a sex worker, that would be my area of expertise. Well, it would be so easy because it's low expectation, right? Well, let's be honest with you. Like, it's low expectation. You just show up, you get the job done. They're excited as hell to see you. It's not like hey, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. You're like, no, there's gratitude with it, right?
You get a Nobel Prize.
Dude. Okay, let's talk about serious
Speaking of
shit.
Nobel Prizes,
Let's talk about
Black
serious
Lives Matter organization gets nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow, I didn't know
Really?
that.
Yeah.
What is that?
Excellent.
Nominated.
Oh, okay.
Stacey Abrams in Georgia, who led the vote in Georgia, also nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Excellent.
So two glowing markers of what Black history is
It
going
only
to
took
be.
6 years for Black Lives Matter to fucking make something.
It's
You know what I mean?
tough though, man.
That was
because,
tough, man.
Like the narrative is so hard to fight, man.
It was tough.
They're called Marxists and terrorists and all this other bull. How do you fight that?
I mean, they're still called that.
Yeah, and how do you fight it? How do you fight it when your mission is to uplift Black people, when you can't even call white supremacists terrorists?
Like my favorite author once said, you kill them with yeses, man. Right? Ralph Ellison. You kill them with yeses and you smile in their face and you keep going because eventually the hate will dissolve and all will be left is fucking love.
Well, you
know?
touched on something earlier that I thought about and how racism in the States, it inflames, that it sparks, it blows up. And I think a big part of that and a big part of this conversation is the media in the States is very different from the media in Canada.
Oh, it's weird.
They almost stoke those flames, and I don't know, ratings exactly. And I think a lot of clashes that have happened in the last 10 years are honestly a direct result of the way the media has covered both sides. Obviously, Fox News is covering one side, CNN's covering another side. What's going to happen when both sides are stoking up these sides to be angry and hateful?
Do you find there's a lot of conflict in media, like people wanting to say one thing but being forced to say something? Like, do you see it personally without going too much detail, obviously?
I think only when people do have political ideologies to stand by, and this is not
Personal opinions.
Yeah, and this is not. I wouldn't suggest this is anybody that is on the air from the station
Totally.
standpoint. It's usually guests that are again protecting the party, protecting their side, and that's kind of their job. They're trained on how to do that. That they have to protect their party.
Yeah, it's a really clever and sneaky. It's a very skilled thing to be in the media now, right? To be able to take those levels in the media now, because there's obviously a level of sellout that you have to have. You know what I mean? Like to get to that higher level, there must be, man, because there's just too much conflict, and the powers that run the media are those specific powers, right? So you can only have so much of a voice. You know? Do
you feel like you've had to temper things around people?
I don't know if I would agree with that. At least from
well, that's why I ask you.
Yeah. From the establishment that I come from, I find that there's very little to almost no meddling when it comes to opinions and people expressing their views. You're essentially, as long as you're not cussing on the air because of regulations and stuff with the CRTC or whatever, you can pretty much say whatever you want. Again, unless you're defaming somebody or performing hate speech. Yeah. There's no censorship. There's no tailoring of views. There's no suggestions on how to navigate an interview. I've never seen that happen. And I've been, working in media for 3+ years now. I've not seen that happen once.
But you look at a guy like Lester Holt.
Yeah.
Like, imagine the what he had to do to get to where he is. Like, we don't know. I'm just speculating, and I'm just hypotheticalizing, whatever the stupid word is, right? But imagine a black man being the anchor of the NBC News. Yeah. Like, what do you have to go through, and what kind of gut check will you have to do on a nightly basis? Look yourself in the mirror and go, Lester, this ain't you. This is just Lester Holt, news anchor guy.
But, I think there has to be...
He said some pretty brutal stuff on the news. Like, I can't remember, but I've watched him and been like, holy crap, this guy's like...
Yeah, and I think a part of you has to have that in you to begin with, to feel like you're doing a disservice. Like, there's that guy, I can't remember his name. He is the stereotype of race baiter, but against his own... Craig Wilcox, is that his name? On ESPN, he's one of these dudes. He talks smack about LeBron James, talks smack about... everybody. He says there's no such thing as racism unless you're poor. He's a real shithead, and he's kind of got the same.
Is he a pencil dick Dracula looking motherfucker?
No, he's
with
fat.
Slick
he's fat.
back hair.
He's chubby.
Oh, okay.
He's chubby. Kind of like the whole Candace Owens,
Oh, okay, yeah, one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, I can't really.
It's always chubby guys.
And that's what I was going to get at too. Is that I don't think that they do look in the mirror and say, "Oh man, what are
That's
you doing?"
what it is. Yeah.
I think that they've just done it for so long. That is who they are now.
Yeah.
And they don't have any Oh yeah.
Like you become the character.
Sure. I think and there's been a few people that I've had arguments with online who represent conservative views. There's a young brown kid actually that I'm thinking of who represents a very I want to put it politely, white mindset of sort of crashing down on the idea that white privilege exists, but using economics to say that. So looking at a group of minorities that make a certain amount of money and saying because these people make that much money and more than white people, white privilege doesn't exist. Which you can't. It's not so black and white like that. But what I've noticed behind that is the people that support those views. There's a huge number of people that supports a young ethnic person supporting these white narratives. And when you're that young and you're continuing to do this, why would you ever stop? When you have all of this support, you're probably going to get job offers from, higher position people with those views. I don't know if that's Lester Holt's situation where he's been doing it for so long that it's second nature now.
Yeah,
but
I wonder, maybe it is, right? And maybe that's just part of the sacrifice you make for your job.
Dude, that would taste like shit in my mouth every day, man. I fucking couldn't handle it.
It's a tough job, man. Media. So who do you admire in media? Like, if you can think of any media type. Do you have any interviewers? God. Like, who do you like as an interviewer?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, the people that I work with, all the hosts that I work with, they're all people that I've looked up to. People in the past who've retired now. That's been my main point of reference. Honestly, I didn't really look at media too much before being in it. I kind of stayed away from media, to be honest, because I had all these sort of warped views about what it was. I thought, the things that you were asking me about, whether, you're forced to think certain ways or say certain things, that's sort of what my perception of media was. I mostly looked at people that were not in news media, but just in media in general. People like James Lipton, who recently passed away, inside the Actors Studio. People
every Sunday afternoon at 2:00.
Yeah, and they would take interviews in a completely different way, where they would just listen to the person, and that's what I'm trying. It's not just a question and answer. It's building off of, maybe that first question leads to a question where you are thinking about the response and you build off of that response as opposed to just going on to your next question, which is something that I try to do when I interview people as well.
That's good.
So that's what we try to do here, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. We just flow.
That's
We
what
just
this
kind
whole
of
thing is
we
so
just
far.
kind of flow with it, right?
Yeah.
Interviewer. Do you got a favorite interviewer?
All time? That's a hard one, man. There's so many
No.
brilliant people out there.
Yeah. Who do you think?
Right now, I like Stephen A. Smith. I think he's really good. I don't agree with everything he does and says, but I like Stephen A. Smith.
It's hard to agree with everything that he says.
Yeah. Matt Barnes from All the Smoke podcast is amazing. You know about Matt Barnes from the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Steven Jackson have a podcast.
I
All
used
the
to
Smoke.
like Joe Rogan a lot, but in recent years,
Rogan's my guy for sure.
he's just kind of gone off the deep end for me a little
He's
bit.
because he's become
What-
scripted.
What,
Yeah.
side, what side of it?
Just some of his views are just super extreme. Like he goes off the deep end. I can't think of any specific
I think
examples.
I think
but-
when you get to the point where you're sponsor driven, you got to always be.
Nah, dude, he's not
thinking-
sponsored. He doesn't have sponsors.
I know, but
Joe is self-made. It's
is he?
Spotify. He just got a fat ass check from Spotify.
But he
and
still he throws off a line about whatever company throughout the show.
he likes
Yeah.
he likes some companies and he talks
he
about the ones
does.
that he
He's
uses.
got some deep money behind him.
Dude, he's
you
fucking
know.
killing it.
You don't get paid 120 million and then not get another 100 million.
And still own the show
Yeah, right.
and own the rights to the show.
But I mean, that's that's the way it goes. Right?
You know what
He
it is for me,
he
like-
he was popular. He was popular. He
Well,
got the
like
popular vote.
at our best, like at our maximum reach, wouldn't you want to have a situation like him where you can interview
100%.
the most bright and brilliant people on the planet?
Yeah, we got one. Right here. It's
I
nice.
think that my favorite stuff is when you get some of the scientists and they deep dive into like insane topics that you would never get from anybody
That's when I used to
anywhere
like
else.
him too. He used to interview these crazy psychedelic dudes. Like there's this guy
Yeah.
named Graham Hancock who's all
Yeah,
about
genius.
mushrooms and stuff. And when this was like I want to say 7-8 years ago, they used to go just deep on mushrooms and DMT and stuff, and that's always super fascinating.
Well, you got to watch our last episode with Shalita that we had.
Right.
I think Joe kind of changes with the times.
Right.
It's smart how he does it.
Totally.
You go with what's happening in the world at that time. You get people who have opinions on it.
And so,
you
yeah,
know.
he doesn't give a shit what somebody like me thinks because
No.
he's still making the
Doesn't
money.
give a shit what anybody thinks.
And like bringing somebody like Alex Jones on the show, people hated him for that,
Yeah.
but like that's got to be ratings for him.
Yeah,
And he doesn't give a fuck
to
if they
him.
hate him. Here's the thing, Kay. Alex Jones is a weird case because I listen to a lot of the fuckery that he says. And out of the 3,000 things that he says that are nonsense, there's 5 things that are massive, that are factual.
Yeah.
You just got to try and ignore the other bullshit.
Yeah.
Because he's out of his fucking mind sometimes. When he
He's
starts
just
going
trying
on.
to sell you vitamins.
Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so check it out. This is that's his thing, right?
Is he really?
I had no idea.
Okay, so what Alex Jones is, when we hear him, we hear conspiracy, loudmouth, who's this
Alien
guy?
boy outside the planet.
Alien, like, come on, man, this guy's right out to lunch on some things and politically correct on some things.
Yeah.
But his whole mission isn't to make you like him, it's to make you listen to him. So the more you have a negative opinion about him or a positive opinion about him, regardless of what it is, you're going to listen in order to fulfill your own need, your own
biases and
ego,
hatred and-
right?
yeah,
and
yeah,
either love him or hate him. But
him.
in the meantime, he'll sell you vitamins and supplements. He is the number one. He's the number one dealer online of supplements and vitamins in
I
America.
fucking did not know this.
Yeah, buddy.
So that's where he makes his money then.
Yeah, he makes fucking millions and
Wow.
millions and millions.
That's mind-boggling.
That's unexpected.
Sells stuff to help you feel like a man again. So, testosterone products to help you.
Is he paying you right now?
No. Protein powders and shit.
Ain't
vitamin
nobody
packs.
paying us.
Dude, he's fucking brilliant. I don't like the guy. I don't
Yeah.
listen to him, but he's smart. I have a buddy the reason why I know all this is I have a friend who isn't watching that fucking buys all of the vitamins and shit. And as soon as I see him, he comes up to me and goes, "Holy fuck, man, this fucking COVID is a conspiracy to fucking." And I'm just like, whoa, what? Hey, bro, how you doing, right? Like, you know those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, they're out there.
Okay, so this is the new brand of psychopath, right? The
Psycho-invasive.
conspirators.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bunch of friends who are conspirators, and I get into weird conversations
Okay,
with
hold
them
on.
every single time.
If they're
I'm with them.
conspirators, you got a problem.
I'm a listener.
Are they conspiracy theorists or
Dude.
conspirators?
Because I myself am I'm not I'm not
Hit
crazy.
me with it.
I'm not crazy.
No, I know you're not crazy.
But I'm a conspiracy theorist.
So you have
To
some
degree.
theories.
I've got some theories.
I think we need to drop those theories right here. Right
You have
now.
to though.
I need to know these theories because I judge everyone by their theories now. And I was getting to this.
Because Mike's got some fucking theories.
I have theories too.
We're going to have a whole podcast just Mike's theories. Be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's reality, but I would love to hear yours.
Well, I mean,
man.
there's
Give me one.
there's
Give
a
me at least
laundry
one.
list of incidents that have led to wars. So the Vietnam War, for starters, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was what essentially led to the Vietnam War, which was this off the coast of Vietnam or something. There
1967.
there was a ship there. The ship got blown into the water. And the way the blame was placed put the blame on the Vietnamese people, which was enough of a motive for the U.S. to, start bombing.
Drop some bombs.
That was proven to be completely
False flag.
infactual, that it wasn't the Vietnamese people that were responsible. I'll take you to a more recent example. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq were, reason enough to go into Iraq and kill millions of innocent people. That was proven to be false. Those things, the Iraq thing for starters, was at one point a conspiracy theory that is not a theory at all anymore. It's just fact. One that's not ever going to be proven, that I feel like needs to be investigated more thoroughly. I don't think it was an inside job. This is obviously one of the most major conspiracy theories that exist, but that there is more to what happened in 9/11 than we've ever been, that's ever been revealed.
Ooh, you about to go somewhere. Okay, so what are you saying?
I'm saying that there were people that knew that things were going to happen, but maybe allow things to happen because it allowed them to do things to shape the way the world works now. Like the Patriot Act, for
So
example.
here's, I think, the thing that people leave out because it's convenient, so you can stay patriotic. The day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld's accounting for trillions of dollars of money that just went missing. Trillions of dollars that they cannot account for the day before 9/11. Okay? 9/11 hits, shit hits the fan. These motherfuckers find a passport of one of the hijackers in the rubble. How do you find a single passport in the rubble?
They couldn't find all the gold.
And then they have this massive 9/11 commission that happens, right? All these first responders that didn't get their insurance paid, and they're all dying of all these respiratory illnesses for rushing into the buildings. All of these ugly truths, they don't want to hear these things. So it's not, to me, that's not a conspiracy theory. To me, you're just ignoring one of the biggest crimes against Americans by the American government that ever happened.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think they knew it was going to happen, and they're like, let's take advantage of this
And
situation.
see, where that falls apart for most people is they can't comprehend that a government would allow thousands of their own people to be killed.
Collateral damage.
How can you say that when a government allows millions of innocent people in a different country to be killed? It just doesn't compute for me.
Yeah, so like another mini fact that people want to ignore is the morning of 9/11, they had a training exercise where all their fighter jets were scrambled to another part of the country. Just conveniently, no fighter jets anywhere near, because normally they could see these planes making their turns and then fighter jets could intercept them and then guide them somewhere else outside of into a fucking building, right?
Yeah.
But conveniently, no jets, no fighter jets. So if you're looking at 9/11 as a whole and you just take the patriotic story of what happened, then you're a fucking moron. That's not a conspiracy theory to me. You're just an idiot. What about the moon landing?
I don't think there's enough evidence to support that it was a hoax. I do think there's a lot of weird things around it, especially when you factor in Stanley Kubrick. That's a whole like another bag of worms. But I don't know if I
Great
believe
movie.
that it was hoaxed. I mean, no one's ever going to be able to know for sure outside of the people that were maybe
Unless you're on the
there
inside.
whether it was real.
Yeah.
So it's hard to weigh in on that.
What about you? I think I've heard you say some shit about the moon before.
The moon landing?
Yeah.
I think that the moon landing didn't happen. I think that it was early Hollywood. I think that people were really naive still on that point, and they believed everything they saw on TV. And the government knew that people believed everything that they saw on TV. Up until 2000, people believed everything.
Okay, so
they
wait.
still believe
So
everything.
beyond
they
the
saw.
moon landing, then, how do you feel about the shirt as a whole?
Oh, this?
As you wear a NASA shirt,
Okay.
So weird.
how do you
Yeah.
feel outside of You're not a flat earther, obviously.
No.
Okay.
This fucking shirt.
Okay.
I actually bought this shirt a long time ago because I was going to meet somebody for business, and she was an ex-scientist or whatever, right?
Interesting.
Yes, and so I was going for a job thing, so I thought, oh,
Power
look, I
play.
found this thing. Boom, I put it on, and I wore it, dude. She's like, nice shirt. I'm like, thank you very much, and I just kept it, right? But I think it was hoax, dude. I think half of the shit that happens on TV, half of the things from Vietnam, half of the things that they've force fed to people over the years has all been the magic of television.
Oh, yeah.
And television, I don't really believe was formed for entertainment purposes. I think they first did it, but then a government somewhere sees it and goes, no, hold on. Okay, you're getting 1 million people to watch the show. Hold on. We can't let this fucking happen on free. We got to take control of this right now, right? And they learned that's how you look how we're controlling people now with COVID. Stay inside. Watch the news. COVID, numbers rising. You watch the news every day. My parents watch the news every day. Believe it.
Yeah, we got a
like
mom
the
that,
gospel.
that.
Hallelujah. Where's Tony Parsons?
Shout out Tony Parsons.
Yeah, shout out Tony Parsons.
I grew up with Tony.
Yeah,
So so obviously COVID exists. Obviously people are dying of it. Yeah. But it seems opportunistic to me that they implement these kind of controls in a pandemic in a way that's completely ineffective for the greater population to ever be able to function normally again. Because the amount of businesses that close from this are not going to reopen. With 40,000 businesses across Canada, 40 fucking thousand businesses in a country with a population of 36 million.
It's a lot.
How do you come back from that?
I think it's just the balance that some governments have got right. Some are worried about, damaging business and that kind of thing. Like in Australia recently, they went into full lockdown. They had to go into a lockdown for 3 or 4 months to bring their numbers down to 0.
Crazy.
So some jurisdictions are saying that COVID 0 is the answer. We're not one of those jurisdictions here in BC. They're trying to mitigate the spread of the virus. They're not trying to clamp it down because they don't think it's possible, which is arguable. But there are health officials, and they're basically the law right now.
Bonnie Henry's the sheriff.
Yeah. So if we're gonna go into conspiracy theories,
okay, ask him one more conspiracy theory. This is good.
So
we should make this a segment. We should have a conspiracy segment.
And see how crazy people really get.
Yeah.
Did you see the Tic Tac UFO?
No.
You didn't see the
Tic Tac?
Yeah, because it's shaped like a Tic Tac.
No.
There's a fighter pilot. They're doing a training exercise in the fastest aircrafts on the planet.
Yeah. They released that like in a few months ago.
It was like the cover of the New York Times.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that we're obviously being prepared for exposure.
Feels like it.
Of some kind to some kind of life. Because just this year, they worked into that legislation that they have to release all the documents on.
And I think they already have, actually.
Yeah, there's 60,000 documents. I think the first day, CIA website, they're just flooding out documents. But who the fuck's going to go through all that shit and read it all? But there's a lot of encounters and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So, overarching conspiracy to me, it seems like you implement controls in a situation like COVID to see how quickly you can clamp down on people's freedoms. Because they did it pretty quickly. Everyone was pretty complicit in their freedoms being taken away. Obviously for the greater good, not because people are sheep, but because they believe in the greater good of protecting people so they stay home and don't fuck around and go outside. So this is kind of like the test of how quickly we can just make your freedoms disappear.
Yeah.
And then the real virus comes when the new life forms hit the planet. Whatever that new life form is going to be, and that virus is going to be the one that we're going to have to stay inside for.
Yeah.
Because people will probably just start dropping dead from exposure.
You guys ever get stoned and then go on these like weird 30-second panic attacks about weird realities that might exist? So I've had this happen with this UFO thing where... So there was this Canadian ex-military dude who was at some disclosure event, I want to say in 2013, 2014. There was this big disclosure press conference. Guy wrote a book about it and stuff. And it was his understanding, his theory, he thinks it's not a theory to him, he thinks this is real, that aliens not only visit our planet, not aliens as in, the green guy, these are like humanoid kind of people that look like us, have been visiting with us over the last 100 years or so, that they have ties with government leaders, that they're working with government leaders. So I think I've gone on one of these tangents again, getting really stoned, like, shit, what if the people who are in charge now are actually these
Aliens.
He suggested some of them can shapeshift as well.
I've heard this.
That's
So
dope.
to add it to his theory, though, is say that does happen. Essentially, in my weird paranoid mind, what is happening is that the aliens are pretending that aliens are coming to invade, so the aliens can have more control.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
Dude, that makes so much sense, though. They would just be like, look at these guys with their one
Fucking
brain.
Right?
You know,
Fucking
like,
chimps.
the size of their brain. Like,
But I don't think they've
It's-
infiltrated yet. I think this year is going to be the exposure. I think we're gonna get shown things this year that we've never seen.
so this has
we've
been a
never seen
soft
before.
kind of a little. This is kind of the lead up to the big
Ongoing
the big
for a
thing.
long time. Essentially, since we've had cameras, since we've been able to take still pictures, we've had sightings.
It's true. Eh?
And see, that's the thing. I think if the media is covering extraterrestrial disclosure, then it's not real. It's orchestrated. If it happens and people are just freaking out all over the world randomly, and it just kind of happens,
Obvious.
I think it's real then. But if it's rolled out in a way that seems, I don't know, planned almost,
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it.
It's so weird. So they would have to be their game would have to be so tight.
Yeah.
For them not to expose themselves.
That's the
over
thing,
this
though. Do you think
these
humans
years.
are that smart? I don't think we're that fucking smart, man.
We were not smart enough to figure out if someone's an alien.
I don't think.
We're so self-absorbed with ourselves that we don't.
Yeah,
because
dude.
Aliens are so external, perhaps. you
Yeah,
know?
dude. If aliens could figure us out and like get here, I don't think they'd give a fuck about us. I think we'd be like a fucking flea in their existence.
Yeah.
If you can travel across galaxies
And
from one
shapeshift.
galaxy to another in some craft that
Yeah.
doesn't require propulsion,
Yeah,
you wouldn't see us as advanced.
yeah.
You would see us as fucking monkeys. Straight up, they see us as weird upright monkeys. They wouldn't want fucking anything to
I
do
mean, one
with
of the
us.
other theories is these people won't even need crafts because they're, interdimensional beings.
That's
who
pretty
could
cool.
Just, warp in and out of time and space. So
And why would they expose themselves to us? What's
That's the thing.
benefit
That's the
Yeah.
of
thing.
doing it? If you're an alien being and you're stealthily rolling around the earth, I don't get old. I just switch cities. I go. You're like a vampire, in essence, a vampire. Because there's some people that are doppelgangers. They're like, that dude looks the same as the guy in the 1930s. Like, what the fuck?
I just thought of this other thing that I saw recently that somebody's, not my theory, somebody's theory is that extraterrestrial beings put us here, put our have sort of put in the pieces to get civilization to where it is today, just to see if we're smart enough to fight climate change. I saw this summer. This is not
pretty
my
cool.
theory.
Crazy.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
See if we can reverse it.
We failed, though, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we
we fucked it up.
So they're just like, yeah, we'll live out the last 100 years with you guys, and
Do you think
don't
that's
have
all
any
it is?
kids, all right? Just fuck.
Do you think that's all it is? 100 years?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
At this rate, it's hard to argue.
But
with
between
that, yeah.
between 50 and 100 years,
I'd say 50 is more realistic.
Yeah, I think in our generation, dude, we won't have the option to go to another planet, but the younger generation of the builders will have opportunities to go to the next planet and go and set up there. That's what's
Dude, man.
obviously happening.
I think my kids having kids, I don't think they're going to have a planet that's going to be livable.
You're not a billionaire in this planet, and you're just gonna make the first spaceship
Yeah,
to space.
yeah.
It doesn't make
Well,
sense.
dude, we're naive because we've been fortunate, right? All it takes is 3 or 4 disastrous earthquakes and our civilization's fucked.
It's fucked.
Beyond repair.
Yeah.
If a major earthquake hit Vancouver, Alberta, Montreal all at once,
Yeah,
the country would be fucked.
devastating.
And we don't get it. We're naive to it because it's been
Earthquake
so long.
happens. What do you do? Right now, earthquake
under
happens.
This table, I would run out your
Door
door.
frame.
Boom, the big
Although,
one
you gotta
hits
watch
right
out
now.
for there's a propane tank above the door
Yeah.
to the exit.
You did.
You gotta watch out for that.
I would
is that
want to get
full?
out in the open.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Okay.
I would want to get out in the open.
Right.
But then the
Same.
ground opens up and you
Right.
fucking get swallowed by the earth.
Well, it
But
could open up anywhere.
Yeah,
there's
facts.
a chance there's a low percentage the ground's gonna open up like in the movie, like
Do you
in
think
Sharknado.
though? Like if it was like an 8 on the Richter
Sharknado?
scale?
Yeah.
If it was like an 8 on the
classic.
Richter scale, that would happen.
Yeah.
Especially like Richmond would be like
Toasted.
quicksand. But the ground would literally rip open.
It'd be pure devastation.
Yeah, I don't like talking about earthquakes, man. That shit's too permanent. And
Do you
it's-
believe in the earthquake theory?
What's the
What's
earthquake
that?
theory?
Well, that we're living on borrowed time, like that.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
Oh, for
something
sure,
pending.
man.
So you do believe in that one?
Oh yeah, I think mathematically it just makes complete sense.
I don't agree that it would destroy our country temporarily. I think we'd recover from it though, because
Yes.
people have recovered from major earthquakes and volcanoes and stuff. It
Yeah.
would force us to change things dramatically.
Yeah, we'd have to change for sure.
Yeah, I agree, man. I don't think there's one coming in our life.
Huh.
I think it's a lot of earthquake kits being sold
Yeah,
out there.
it's scary. Because I
You
think
know?
if it happens and you're fucked, I don't think an earthquake kit's going to help you. I think you're going to be fucked.
There's a lot of control mechanism. There's a lot of control mechanisms involved with, with a natural disaster, even just a small one.
Well, dude, a scared population is easy to control.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, right?
There's a lot of things, man. It's like religion. It's the same, right? It's all just the same. The COVID, religion, everything, man. It's all just a battle.
Control.
Right now, it's just a battle of different people trying to control us, really. From before. I mean, look at what's happening with the stock market thing. Those guys.
Love it.
Yeah, I wish I knew
Love
more about
it.
stocks because I would be all over that.
Yeah, I have a buddy that made a lot of money and a buddy that lost a lot of money. Shout out Tommy. I know that
That's the
fucking
thing.
sucked for you, but
Like if you're following the stuff on Reddit, most of these people have no real experience in it,
Yeah.
and they're just sort of jumping on the bandwagon. A lot of them are
Yeah.
going to lose so much money.
But if you got
don't
out,
know what
you
they're
made
doing.
some cash, yo.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, the thing I love about it is that the app is called Robinhood. The fucking app is called Robinhood. And if you don't know Robinhood, it's take from the rich, give to the poor. So it gives everybody the opportunity to play with stocks.
It's great.
So they give these people the opportunity, and some of these guys are smart enough to say, you know what, I'm going to fuck you over. And they did. And you see billionaires on CNBC and stuff the next day crying and shit. I'm like, man, you guys are such bitches.
Welcome to the game.
You rigged the
motherfuckers.
system to benefit you, and when someone figures it out, now you're crying like a little bitch.
Well, someone rigged Robinhood too, though.
Yeah.
They made it so that you couldn't buy anymore or something like that.
You couldn't buy anymore. You could only sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. They fucking cut off the system. That's illegal.
Yeah.
They would never do it to anybody else. But when the poor people, no, I shouldn't say poor people. These people that made the stock rise weren't poor people. They were doing okay.
Yeah.
Throw money at it, let it blow
Yeah,
up.
if you can throw up $1,000 into a stock. you're doing
Yeah,
all right.
come on. They were doing okay. But Blockbuster stock, that's fucking
Really?
Blockbuster stock, BlackBerry stock, AMC,
Yeah.
the theaters
Wow.
company. It's just a kick in the face of these
I heard they're
fucking
going after
billionaires.
Bitcoin too. Going to buy up all
Yeah,
the
that's
Bitcoin.
the recent one too. Yeah.
So they're going to buy all the Bitcoin, which is going to force such a demand of Bitcoin.
That's true.
They're going to have to break up the Bitcoins into smaller pieces. So each Bitcoin's going to be broken down into,
I don't know enough about it to know
into
what this
individual
means.
Bitcoins.
Are you following this cryptocurrency?
No, again, something that I wish I knew more about.
Dude, it's supply and demand, you
yeah.
know?
And I keep hearing people talk about how it takes up so much resources, so bad for the environment, and it's
bad.
it's strange.
But
'cause
there's
I don't
only so
understand.
many Bitcoins.
Where
There
it is.
there isn't like an endless supply of Bitcoins.
So there's a finite number.
There is a finite number.
Interesting.
And this same group is planning on buying up all the rest of this Bitcoin. And then that would mean that, it's kind of like what's happening with silver right now. Right? Like, I'm not really into the stock market. I just talk to people about shit. And, right? But my friend was like, hey, dude, silver's real deal right now. If you have silver, hold on to it or buy it. Because that shit's going to shoot through the roof, like 3,000 an ounce. I'm like, what?
Shit.
I'm like, silver. I'm thinking, can I rob my grandma? Any aunties? I got some shit, right? Giving some money for some cheap ass silver, right? But having physical silver, because when people buy stocks of silver, it's only paper.
Yeah.
It's just
Not
written on
physical
paper.
silver.
It's not physical. So when
Yeah.
the demand, if everybody goes, well, I'm going to cash in my silver. I love to get my silver. There's not that much fucking silver on the market. Right. And that's a real big problem. That's what's happening too. So these groups are trying to really mess with the market, man. And this
it's a
is
good
the
thing.
reality, dude. Nothing will ever be the same. Technology has made us evolve into a different species of human being.
Yeah.
I've always said that. We are not the same as our fathers and ourselves.
No.
We are different. If you don't adapt, you're going to fucking die. Your new death will be social death. Dude, it's where it's going.
So you don't play in the stocks?
No. And again, if I had more education on it, I would. I just don't want to take any risks that I don't know
not
Yeah.
worth
the
it.
full. Yeah.
Invest in cannabis companies.
That's what happened. I was listening to a show on a different station who were asked about whether this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened in the market. But then they compared it to when cannabis became legal and how
Yep.
that was a bubble. There had been other times where there have been similar kind of bubbles. This one is I guess a more manufactured bubble than
Because it's really nothing.
yeah. But
It literally is no value whatsoever. They're betting against companies losing money.
Oh, wow.
That's what it is. They're these guys that were selling these stocks short were betting on these companies losing money.
Yeah.
And these Reddit guys were like, fuck that. These companies worth money. And they just threw a bunch of money into it.
They
and
also
flipped
mentioned
it.
how it could potentially make life better for certain people. Like GameStop is one of the stocks that were being manipulated by these people, and GameStop was severely hurting in America. They're the an American
They were
game
fucked.
The
establishment.
retails were shutting down.
Yeah.
So this is good for GameStop. So people that work for GameStop
Mm-hmm.
might see a little boost in terms of keeping their jobs a little longer
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which is so weird.
It's so funny.
But I heard it's balancing out now. Like,
Yeah, people are trying to
eventually
get back
it
to
loses
normal.
steam, right?
Yeah, you can only keep so much money in there because they're not making money.
So scary, man. So
Yeah.
scary. But it's good on you. You're shorting people, like betting on their failure.
Yeah, well, they did this in
like-
the real estate crash,
Yeah, it's
the
the
housing
same
market
thing,
crash, right?
It just seems so slimy. It's like, go fail. It's like wrestling. It's like wrestling in stock market, right? Yeah, you got the fucking bad guy. Go down, motherfucker, right? Hey, just sticking on Black History Month because I read some stats or some these weird little facts
Okay.
about it. I wanted to mention you guys that
Okay.
one where they talked about this 12.5 million slaves that left Africa, right? And that how only there's 383,000 that actually made it to America.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? It was America being the last kind of stop along the way.
Yeah,
the
because
boats.
2 million died
Yeah.
in the middle sea, whatever you want to call it. And then everyone else was
Just filtered through and
Different
and
islands.
died in different ways. Yeah.
and dropped off in different islands.
yeah. And
So
that's
most of the
crazy.
early inhabitants of those Caribbean islands are from the transatlantic slave
So
trade.
you look at how many of those slaves went to Europe.
Yeah.
Right? Like America had a big one, but Europe and like no one ever talks about the European
It's
slave.
true.
Yeah.
Hey? It's crazy. Like even you mention that to anybody and they never really even
Well,
they
dude,
don't
to
even
this
know about it.
day, there's some African nations that pay France a tax for having abolished slavery. They pay fucking France like hundreds of millions of dollars as a tax because slavery was ended.
Wow.
So yeah, they don't give a fuck, and a lot of those European countries, they don't give a fuck about Africa or what happened in Africa. They've been exploiting it. They continue to exploit it, like the rest of the world does, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, constant exploitation.
And did you know that Stevie Wonder is the first black artist to win Album of the Year?
Oh wow!
Yeah. He was the first person to win Album of the Year in
It's like in the 70s.
1973.
Yeah.
Innovation, album innovations.
Yeah, he's
Stevie
ahead of his
Wonder.
time.
That's kind of wild that it took that long.
Yeah, 1973.
Because there's a lot of great black
So,
artists.
are you kidding me?
Decades before
So much
that.
good music.
I know, but he was the first one in 1970s.
Wow.
dude. That's amazing. Eh?
Yeah.
Win Album
Yeah,
of
and
the
I
Year.
know the first hip hop one was Big Willie Styles.
Really?
Will Smith.
Willie Smith?
Not Big Willie Styles, not that album.
But-
Will Smith.
Will Smith didn't go to the
Award show?
award
Yeah,
show
yeah.
because they didn't put the rap on TV.
They
back
didn't give a
then.
fuck about hip
Oh
hop.
my god.
They didn't care about hip hop.
It
so
wasn't
they were like-
televised.
when you watch it, it was like, and for rap, best rap.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
best
yeah,
something. It would say
Yeah.
on the side. That was it.
But you know what? They lost a lot of kids like that because I didn't give a fuck about those award shows afterwards.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z, same thing. He
Michael
boycotted the
Jackson
Grammys
changed
forever. Yeah, MJ was like kind of like a unique thing,
He
right?
changed the game.
He did, yeah.
When it came to the award shows.
Yeah, he was a unique thing.
Right.
I don't think you can classify him as a music type because he's got rock in his music, he's got
Right.
R&B in his
Yeah.
music, he's got straight pop in his music.
Yeah.
He's kind of like his own entity.
He kind of
right?
transcended music. In
I think
some
so.
way.
I think
Yes.
so.
What
Yeah.
are in your judgment in music, what were the game changers through the history of music?
For me or for music?
And when you look at the path of music, like real game changers, like you just said, Michael Jackson, like
Jackson,
100%, changed everything from the 70s to 80s, made that transition, making disco go away. And
My
then he
personal
kinda took
goat, for
over,
sure.
Right?
My
Like,
personal
fuck,
goat.
he was perfect. He was good timing.
Yeah.
Who do you have on your list of game changers?
I mean, there's obviously a lot of questions around this figure, but it's hard to deny what he did in terms of making music, explode. Elvis Presley, obviously, going
Yeah.
back to like the 60s and 70s.
Appropriated
He was a
him.
huge figure.
yeah, it's huge.
The Beatles, talking about huge, bigger than Jesus, like that. And I don't even think the Beatles were the most talented. Together, they're super talented, don't get me wrong, but when you look at the history of the Beatles and the influence of their music, they've borrowed from so many musicians.
And
that
they
have-
kind of sound like a garage band at times, but they're just create beautiful
and the
music.
people that
Just timing.
they had
Yeah.
borrowed from are all forgotten. People like Frank Zappa. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard of Donovan. I've
Yeah,
only
oh, yeah,
recently
yeah.
discovered Donovan, but borrowed heavily by the Beatles.
Yeah.
Who else is there? 70s.
Who's the Monkeys there? And fucking
Monkeys.
who are the Monkeys? There was big Donovan and the Monkeys, I remember. And then there was like there's a lot of bands. But you're right, they did copy from him. So Beatles, Elvis, Michael Jackson. Who do you got after Michael Jackson?
After Michael Jackson? Oh, God. Is there anyone after Michael Jackson?
Well, think about music. You
I
know.
know. Madonna, obviously, you got to think of her when it comes to female representation in terms of what she was for music and females in music.
But she didn't really change the game, though.
Oh, yeah, she did. In the 80s, she did.
For women's music?
Oh,
probably?
for sure.
Yeah, I think she made it
For female liberation.
Blondie.
Just female liberation, being open with being sexy, being open with
Gotcha.
with
Yeah,
sex.
she
period.
was really the first
She
one to
kicked
do
the doors
Yeah.
down with that shit.
Along with Grace Jones.
Yes.
Shout out.
And then moving into the 90s, then I look at a band like Nirvana.
Yeah,
who,
exactly.
For that generation,
Kurt
they spoke
Cobain.
to that generation. And I think ever since then, I mean, you can point to a lot of musicians that are huge now and they resonate with an audience, but I think that was the last time it really was this kind of almost a dangerous level of fanaticism that fans had for Nirvana. You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
crazy.
teen angst and young angst that they spoke for. Which, who's speaking for the young generation today? Can you think of who it is?
See, the problem for me is like, you know,
That's a good point.
the people that are speaking to the young generation are. It's so horrible to say, but hip hop we listened to growing up, we listened to drug dealer music, right? This generation listens to drug user music, and there's a big difference because they talk about getting fucked up till you pass out,
Yeah,
trying to commit suicide
Crazy.
with drug. That's a different paradox.
I hate to have kids.
I know.
We never experienced that growing up. I don't remember any music that I listened to talking about killing yourself with drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghetto Boys was dark, right? Ghetto Boys went to
Yeah,
some
but
fucked up places,
gangster
but they
rap.
weren't advocating suicide. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there was one song that one of these dudes that got killed, the Triple X Tentacion.
Yeah.
He had a song. It's called "Kill Yourself."
Yeah.
And
Brutal.
See, the thing is, for me, like, you know what you're doing when you're creating this music. You know what market you're going to attract. They brand you specifically to be this martyr, this guy.
Sad, man.
And you reach to the
Poor
darkest
kids.
parts of teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's a fucking hard place to sit, right? Like, you mentioned Kurt Cobain, and he penetrated that angst. But I feel like his music, like, filled people, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of... His music wasn't positive, but he filled people, right? And with this music, all they're doing is, like, trying to, like, rip that part out of you, right? Because people tried to kill themselves listening to this guy's music. My daughter's 13, has a friend that tried to kill herself because of this music. Wasn't successful, but tried to.
And on the note of like who she might listen to today, who
Yeah.
I personally don't care for,
Mm-hmm.
the over sexualization of these pop stars geared towards. They're not
Yeah.
intentionally geared towards these 13-year-old
Mm-hmm.
kids, but that's who are listening to these artists, you know, flaunting themselves around. Which again, you could point to Madonna saying she did. I just feel like there's a fundamental difference between, say, Ariana Grande and Madonna in terms of the way they present themselves, the lyrical content of their music. I feel like Ariana Grande is a lot more I mean, obviously Madonna to some extent was manufactured
But
as well.
you
about
got the
Lady
impression that
Gaga?
Madonna had control of her situation.
Yeah, exactly. Lady Gaga, I personally
She didn't really hit the mark. Eh?
no. There's no doubting her musical talent, her ability on piano.
think she
and
did
ability to
aight.
sing.
But game changer.
I think she did right.
What
She's
about-
got an Oscar, right?
What about Cardi B?
Okay, so here's the thing for me, okay? I think if you're gonna make money off of music and a market,
Because
and
remember,
you
we've
have
evolved
fans-
as a human being. We've
Yeah.
allowed technology into our life.
Yeah.
So our old way of thinking of icons who needed to have talent to do shit is gone.
Well, the thing is, I think parents play a huge role here, right? Like, my daughter loves Cardi B. Rosie loves Cardi B. She appeals to women, period.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for me, if you're going to make money off your music, fucking do your thing. I think it's amazing that you can change your life, change your family's life, and make money off of music. My daughter knows Cardi B is an entertainer and not a real human being. My kid knows that. She understands that. She's not going to try and be Cardi B when she's out walking around the streets.
But your kid's a rare case.
Yeah, but that's because of us as parents.
Exactly.
We dictate that upon them that this is an entertainer. This is not how normal human beings act.
Yeah.
You see her in her videos when she doesn't have makeup on. She's just a regular person like everybody else.
Yeah.
And see, that's
So-
the thing when we were growing up, you know, watching people like Dr. Dre for you guys.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up watching Michael Jackson a lot
Yeah.
and other pop people around then. I didn't have parents to guide me through it, but the people that we were following also weren't I think, putting out as dangerous of an image as I think somebody like Cardi B does. I also hate when Cardi B comes out and acts like she's a politician and talks about what's
horrible.
good and bad for. Look at your life.
Well, the thing is, okay, see, she's left-leaning, right? Left-leaning, progressive ideologies.
Yeah.
So if she's gonna get kids to start thinking about politics in a left-leaning way, I'm with that, because these kids aren't gonna have any other role model that they like that's gonna talk about politics. Cardi B doesn't have to know about politics. She just supports the politicians I like, so I'm okay with it. If she was supporting like fucking Mitch McConnell and these trolls, I'd fucking hate her. But she's
like
supporting she's on the right side for me. So, hey man, I'm not a fan. I would never listen to her music.
What about Eminem?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Was he a game changer?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Why do we always forget about Em?
I don't. I give him his props, dude. I
No,
think
but
think
people
technically
do.
he's the best hip hop writer. If hip hop
Yeah.
is he's the best hip hop writer to ever exist.
I think personally that he kind of overstayed his welcome. For me personally, as somebody that used to love him, like
Interesting.
Marshall Mathers
Yeah.
and Slim Shady and
Yeah.
stuff. I used to.
Those are
'cause you
phenomenal.
Used to play
Yeah.
his albums. That's how I listened to it, and I used to adore him. But yeah, I think at a certain point you got to step away from the game, and you almost become a parody of yourself if if you're up there too long. That's just my opinion. I know you still like Eminem.
Well, the thing is for me, like I you can't really bump his stuff, right?
No.
You have to kind of like focus. You have to want to listen to it. If you're at the gym or something, you're like, I'm gonna fucking, I'm gonna
that
digest this
ass
now,
for
right?
me.
Because you have
Shake that
well,
ass for
the
me.
thing is, you have to listen to him.
Yeah.
He structures bars. He creates these patterns. As an MC, it just makes you fucking like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How did he make all these words fit?
The other thing that bothers me about his evolution, though, is like again talking about Marshall Mathers. The lyrics in the song Marshall Mathers is "I'm just Marshall Mathers," and you fast forward 15 years, I'm a rap god. It's
Yeah, he is okay. I don't want to overstate the impact, but honestly, as an MC, I try to write bars that blow people's minds. I try to make shit.
Oh, yeah.
I try to make you want to rehear. What did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Until you get what he said.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker, he says shit in his rhymes that you don't catch the first 2 or 3 times, and then the fourth time you're like, oh, what the fuck? And then you realize that he's been putting together this rhyme pattern from the end of the last verse. And he gives you a hook, and he picks it up from where he just does stuff with bars. Like I said, I'm not bumping his music riding down the street, but he does stuff with bars that has to be applauded.
But what I'm saying in terms of that parallel between Marshall, or the contrast between Marshall Mathers and now I'm a rap god, is what he is considering himself when he's putting himself out there. Like, it doesn't matter to me that you're a rap god. I liked you when you were just a person rapping about your normal life, and that's what Kanye West too. I thought at one point he was gonna be a game changer. I don't think he ended up being a game changer. But he was so real when he first entered the scene.
Yeah,
We're
he
talking to
was.
real things. And
He was
then
hungry.
Yeah,
He's still got time. He's still youngish.
I don't know,
He's a
man.
gold digger.
Yeah.
He's gonna
people
get some cash.
People change. Like, you've changed a lot over your lifetime.
Sure.
Okay. When's the last time you remember wanting to eat meat and eating it?
Oh yeah, fuck! I don't eat that shit either.
God, probably 8, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Wow.
It's a long time. Good for you, man.
And you made there was a decision consciously that you made that said, this is it.
And I find that to be the opposite of the trajectory that I was talking about. They're going from normal to I don't know, to thinking of themselves again like a divine entity, where I have gone from, I guess, thinking of myself as a divine entity, because that's what religion tells us, that we have dominion over the earth, to just being a creature on the earth now who doesn't want to eat other creatures on the earth.
Yeah, my girl is that way too.
Vegan right now?
Yeah,
really?
we're all we have left is fish.
So pescatarian kinda.
Yeah, that's it. And the reason why we eat fish is because I really want my girl to have a balanced life, and I do cook her a lot of fake meat products.
Yeah.
Which is really good. There's a lot of those ones, but then once in a while, we have fish, and that's about it. Because realistically, you don't need it.
No.
And the more harm it does, and people are like, well, I hate the one where people say, well, to make this is more harmful on the earth than just eating the meat.
Yeah.
Hey? That's the most common thing that I hear. And I'm like, dude, how?
Is your opposition to meat the environmental impact or the impact on the animals?
Both.
Okay.
It started off with when I first went vegan, the person I was with at the time was vegan and gave me a book. And the book basically just covered the ethical treatment of animals. And I honestly, up until I read that book, I didn't even know what vegan was. And I started considering animals. I started considering the conditions they live in, the fact that these seemingly innocent creatures are murdered for our consumption. And that was the first step I took towards it. And that was my initial reason to take the plunge and go vegan, because I didn't feel like I could support, I don't think I was worth my need for meat wasn't worth this thing that I didn't know dying for me. I was supporting this with my money. And I think it ties into basically anything that you don't want to support. It all comes from the same greed. Even something like dairy, the dairy industry is one of the most corrupt industries on the planet. The way they've sold milk over the past 30 years, the buying celebrities, the Got Milk campaign and
food plans,
paying scientists to say it's healthy and it's not. So
okay, so I'm gonna
so bad
ask you a series of questions that I see people ask vegans.
Ready.
Starting off with a lot of people
Plants
that are meat eaters, right?
Okay.
A lot of people that are generally meat eaters.
Who there's only one of in the worm, really.
Yeah. But here's the thing, okay? I can see my life. I can see my life moving in that direction.
Do you still not eat red meat, by the way?
No more red meat.
Okay,
Yeah. So I can see my life moving in this direction. I just have an affinity for chicken and fish, which is very hard for me to give up. But
it's a process.
yeah. So essentially, there's an air of arrogance that a lot of meat eaters feel that is given to them when it comes to vegans.
Here you go, murderer.
Yeah, as if being a meat eater is something that can be condemned as a lifestyle, right? I know you're not that kind of person.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You don't force it upon anybody that's around you. Yeah. So do you get where people get this perception of
Vegans?
Yeah, people that are vegan?
Oh, big time. But I still think that... So the places that I see that it's warranted, I think everyone right now is on board with the fact that climate change is a real thing, including a lot of meat eaters out there.
Yes.
For me, when I find it acceptable to be that way as a vegan is if you're talking to somebody who claims they care about the climate. If you care about the climate, you can't eat animals. That's just fact. If it's just somebody imposing their views for no reason, yeah, I get it totally. There's if you're not having a conversation about it, if this happened. People do these campaigns where they'll go up to like a fast food restaurant that sells primarily meat, and they'll start a picket line in front of it, they'll stand in solidarity in front of this restaurant while people are just enjoying their meals or whatever. I don't agree with that kind of tactic because it paints a weird picture about vegans.
So okay. Again, questions I've seen.
But you know what he said, like being an advocate for a vegan lifestyle is a lifestyle,
right? So
like not actually being a vegan, but
so what about having a car?
Well, but that's not what the vegans have cars.
Okay, so is there a parallel in the severity of what?
So you talk about climate.
What your contribution is, you can be condemned for. You know what I mean? Because there's a value that's placed on certain things that happen in the world. Like because there's conversations that go like people talk about vegans or animals dying. Or you don't give a fuck about people dying on the other side of the world in wars and all that other bullshit. Right. There's parallels drawn based on the level of atrocity, and in most people's cases, because meat is such a normal part of society. Up until now, it's kind of changing now. The sentiment. Because it's such a normal part of society, when they get attacked, the reaction is normally a fucking fight.
When vegans get attacked?
No. When meat eaters get attacked by vegans, it's like when religious people used to tell you you'd go to hell if you didn't believe, right?
And with the car thing, I think the point is progress, not necessarily perfection. I think with somebody that is. Well, first of all, there's a lot of people that do it for dietary reasons, not for ethical reasons at all, because they've got some allergy to whatever that they're forced to eat a vegan lifestyle. So those people are not in this conversation at all, I don't think. But talking about cars, I think it's doing what you can to make the most immediate impact. If you need a car because you need it because you won't be able to work your job otherwise, then, you know, it's probably easier for you to just, you know, cut the meat out of your life because you're going to the grocery store anyways. You just buy something else instead of, you know, the usual meat products that you buy. So I guess that's where my mind would go when it comes to talking about, like a vegan driving a car, maybe coming off like a hypocrite, I guess, is sort of what you're alluding to. Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about people that hunt for their meat?
Again, it boils down to, I think, for me, necessity. Obviously, there's a lot of people that hunt for sport, which I don't agree with. I think there are probably
not for sport, but for sustenance.
I think there are probably some communities out there where if there is no other choice, you know, how can you argue with it if you're if the alternative is you're starving to death?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to kill yourself because you can't find a local grocery store to buy plant-based foods from.
It's hard.
What about, because I'm sure you heard a lot of shit over the years. How about the argument that animals are just going to die in the wild anyways? The animals don't die of old age. They die of getting eaten and killed from other animals.
I think the way the meat industry works is they've cultivated the animals that they have now in a way where I guess it's not the same across the board, but I think you're right that if some of these animals that are kept in captivity for meat, if you did let them out in the wild, they probably would die because they don't know any better than to, you know, be taken care of by their masters who are going to slaughter them. So
Crazy.
In general, though, I don't think that's true. Like if you look at India, where in a lot of places they consider cows to be sacred, cows can absolutely live in the wild. And talking about cows. I think that's one of the weird things when we talk about animals that are used for consumption for food, that when we think about them as these, you know, kind of senseless, brainless kind of beings, which isn't true at all. If you've ever been to like a sanctuary where they keep like rescued animals and stuff, and you've hung out with a cow has just as much sensitivity and intelligence and emotional intelligence as a dog does.
Yeah.
Same with the pig. Same with the chicken in certain cases. So,
Don't say that.
I know.
True.
He just touched on the main thing. There is people ignoring the truth so they can.
But this is why I stopped eating red meat, because I saw a video
Yeah.
that showed cows with their owners as just domesticated pets,
Lying on
and they're
its
just like
lap
gigantic dogs, and they're brilliant and playful, and they have all these different social cues. I'm like, what the fuck? It's almost like eating a sentient being, and I just like, fuck, I just can't do it anymore. So I had to stop eating red meat.
A sentient being.
It's like being, now I put them in the class of like monkeys and elephants and.
My girl is militant animal. Like we're gonna go open up an animal rescue. She's horrified by how donkeys are treated. You know, like that's her thing, right? But you know, all we do is watch rescue videos.
Yeah,
or
I do too.
Slaughter videos, or that's all we do all the time. And we're like, dude, this is what we're making money to go do, right? We're gonna save animals.
So if there was an opportunity to correct this balance in the food industry the way it is, what would be the ideal outcome for you to see?
Well, one of the challenges with industries that are trying to, I guess, move into more sustainable methods of sustaining themselves financially and their livelihoods is, where do these people who have these jobs as people that work in agriculture, what do they do if animals aren't, you know, their livelihoods anymore? So I think you need to figure out a solution for all these farmers and people that work in the industry to see where they're going to go to next. But in terms of like an ideal,
what about all the animals?
that's
billions.
another question. Yeah, I mean, what do we do with all these animals? There's no answer for it because we're not even close to, I think, that reality.
Yeah.
But obviously, ideally, I'd want to see no factory slaughterhouses open anymore.
Oh yeah, it's funny. It's weird because we raise these cattle, but yet raising these cattle are killing all the wild animals.
Yeah.
Hey, like we don't.
Yeah,
we're
this
not
is
thinking
a structural problem though, because you can't fix it unless you transform huge sectors of the government and the economy, because you have to create a food source locally that can sustain your population. You can't import all of your product if you're going to be a full meatless society. You'd have to have a lot of microeconomies within the city that create produce constantly.
And governments would have to fully get on board because right now
That's big.
governments are pumping so much money into like the beef and
they
dairy
love it.
industry. So, and they're doing it to keep these industries alive.
Yeah.
So you'd have to get your government on board to fully invest into finding solutions for these industries to evolve.
So
in some way.
you can see the writing's on the wall. They're dying industries. They're eventually going to be like what the fossil fuel industry is now.
Yeah.
Fossil fuel is in its last phases.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
most
so
vehicle
completely.
manufacturers by 2024 are all going to be electric.
Yeah.
So
Goodbye.
you
gas.
could you see us eventually being a meatless society?
Well, we'll have test tube meat.
Yeah.
That's already on the way.
Yeah.
That's already on the way.
The GMO meat, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
whatever.
They already 3D printed some edible meat.
I
That's really bad.
And see, the issue is,
Oh
is
my
convincing that group of people that are, because there's vegans
Mm-hmm.
that are, you know, ethically in favor of animals living, and then there's people that are directly opposed to vegans, the diehard extremist carnivores who, like the Jordan Peterson diet. Have you heard of it?
Yeah. Carnivore diet.
Yeah, the
So
carnivore
they
diet,
treat it as a human right as opposed to a cruelty thing. Like it's their right to eat meat, not the fact that it's like moralistic war for them. For them, it's just like this is my right. You can't take my right
Well,
away.
I think for some of them it is immoral too, and a lot of that stems from religious belief. We were talking about our brother earlier. And, me and him have got into arguments online because he uses religion to suggest that we have ownership over animals and we can basically do whatever we want with them. And I think that's where a lot of people's mindsets come from, if they're coming from, you know, maybe Christian backgrounds, even that's sort of the way God intended it to be in the end.
So we got to ban religion.
Weird, eh?
We got to get religion out of society. Essentially, what you're saying.
We 100%. That's what first needs to go. That's the root of everything.
It's impossible.
No, it isn't impossible, man, because they have, you know, one thing we need to do is we need to corrupt the Christians. We do. This Pope's corruptible, and I think he's being corrupted.
He's come out in favor of a lot of socially, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's
progressive
being
ideas.
swayed. He's being swayed, man. And I think that's what needs to happen. You need to infiltrate, right? Because it's the Roman Church, the Roman Catholics that fucking are controlling the mindset of so many fucking people.
Yeah.
I think it's a PR stunt from the Pope, honestly, just to get, because they've been they've had such bad press leveled at them over the last like 2 decades.
I wonder why.
Jesus, that's been bad.
Fucking
Pardon the
pedophile.
But
pun.
yeah, how are you going to
Pins.
convince 2 billion Muslims out there to stop believing in Islam?
Yeah, right.
Try
Yeah.
convincing one.
Yeah.
Fuck 2 billion. Yeah, no. Once
been
this kind of religion is entrenched in your brain, you're not letting it go.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just navigate around it.
So we gotta get rid of religion,
Yeah, get rid of meat.
get rid of meat,
Mm-hmm.
get rid of fossil fuels,
Yeah,
and move towards the society that
Sounds
Nikola
pretty
Tesla
good.
envisioned.
It sounds perfect to me.
free internet.
And high phrase could exist in that environment too,
Yeah.
because we're down with the cannabis. Who's your cannabis supplier today?
So today, cannabis is my good friend. My good friend. I just want to give him a shout out. Thank you, sir. This is the blue. This gangster blue. It's very good.
We had a pine tar earlier. That's a train wreck, provided by Danger Dave, aka Fung Fu. If you want to get at Fung Fu, hit me in the comments so you know where you can
All
get
right,
some
so-
bomb ass green. People are probably just high looking at the haze. In
Yeah,
the
that's,
sky.
if they can even see us. So can we do top 3 with you, and then you can
waiting
play
for you to
us
do that.
Sure.
Yeah,
song?
Top
Okay.
3 what?
he's
We're
got
just
a
gonna
few.
ask
He's
you
got a few.
We're gonna ask you a top 3, and then you just tell us your top 3.
Okay. What if I can't think of 3?
It's a very easy game. Well, then if you can get 2,
All right.
some people get 2.
Okay.
All right, so we'll start off real easy. You are an R&B singer.
Right.
All right.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. All right. Your top 3 R&B singers' favorite. Top 3.
The first one that springs to mind immediately is Music Soul Child.
Ooh.
A lot thanks to him, my upbringing.
Classic.
I also have to put Michael Jackson in there. Honestly, his some of his R&B tracks are off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3. I'm gonna say this is weird too. So, the weird thing about me and my musical tastes is that there's 100 artists that I like, but a lot of these artists, there's maybe 2 tracks that I love from them.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I don't know if it qualifies for me to put one of those
does.
artists
Sure it
in the
does,
top
yeah.
3.
Yeah, of course. It's how you feel.
Because they obviously moved you.
Use your
Yeah.
soul, child.
The Isley Brothers.
Ooh,
Oh.
love it.
And it's mostly
Out
because
of
of
left
it's
field.
mostly because of Footsteps in the Dark, the song that
Beautiful.
Today Was a Good
Beautiful.
Day
Yeah.
sampled. Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow, that's pretty.
Have you
intense.
heard the remake of Footsteps in the Dark from Sir?
No.
It's R&B singer from
I didn't see
TDE.
that
I also got to
coming.
throw Stevie Wonder in there. I know it's 4.
Ooh.
But,
Stevie, man.
Stevie
Stevie.
Wonder.
What's your favorite
Amazing.
Stevie Wonder song?
what have I been listening to Stevie lately? It's between Living for the City.
Baby.
Beautiful.
Another one that's not played as often, but super low key and chill is If It's Magic. You know that one?
No.
You know which one I was listening to the other day? It's so depressing that I never dreamed you'd leave
How does
in
the?
summer.
What is that? What's that? I've heard that song.
It's the Stevie song. You heard it.
Yeah. No, what is that song?
What the fuck's the name of the song? You've heard it, haven't you?
Stevie's had some hits.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, he's had too many hits.
Yeah, decades of hits.
Yeah.
Okay, top 3
turn.
favorite basketball players.
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and
LeBron James.
Hell no.
He hates LeBron James.
Wow. Why do you? Hate
Don't go there,
LeBron
don't go
James?
there.
Yeah, you don't want to go.
Yeah, no. Do your third first.
So Michael, Kobe, and God, who's that number 3 gonna be? I only think of Michael and Kobe when I think about my favorite players. To be honest,
Who's better?
Michael. It's tough though. Michael.
Are you serious? You think that?
Michael better than Kobe?
Yeah.
You don't think that?
No, I don't think.
You think
that.
Kobe's better than Michael? Eh?
I think that Kobe would have beat Michael
Oh,
Wow.
in a one-on-one.
that would have been that would have been
Wow.
nuts if they actually in their both their primes. If they had a 1-on-1, that'd be nuts. But
I think that
Kobe's got 2 inches on him. That
yeah,
could be a
and
deciding factor.
Yeah, and I think
Steph
he-
Curry. Sorry, that's 3.
Ooh.
Oh, Steph Curry. That's a good
Steph.
call.
Okay. Yeah.
Steph
Anyway,
Curry.
he hates LeBron James.
All right, so
Hates.
who's better, LeBron James or
Don't ask.
Kobe Bryant?
Don't
I
ask.
put so
Oh, I'm setting him up. This is called the
It's
setup.
Kobe.
Jab, jab, punch.
Kobe.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Kobe.
All right. So who's better than Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
what do you mean between the two?
Oh,
of
yeah,
them?
just-
Oh, it's obviously
just
Michael.
between the two of them.
Michael, come on,
Okay. All right.
easy.
All right.
He just doesn't like him.
I forgot where I was going with that. I forgot where I was going.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna set up like a knockout.
I did. I had the knockout, but I forgot. I forgot where I was going.
That's
with
the
it.
one
It'll come back
disadvantage
to
with
me.
with when Miss Mary Jane visits.
All right. Well, we won't get into LeBron talk because that could be a sensitive issue around
it-
here, and only because I just truly believe, that when you quit, that's the asterisk that nobody talks about. It's like you quit.
I mean Jordan retiring for a little while.
You mean him getting fired and
are we
quitting?
going back to the conspiracy theory?
Yes, we're back. We never left the Twilight Zone.
The basket
I've
of
heard all the
conspiracies.
theories. He
Right?
for his gambling habit and stuff.
I think LeBron, when it's said and done, he's going to break all the records.
Well,
Oh, for sure,
obviously, he's
for sure.
gonna have played the long.
And we
he's gonna
can't really
be-
say he's the best until he breaks all the records.
To me
'cause
personally, I think he is the most complete
yeah.
player overall skill wise to ever play
Michael
the
was
game.
great though. Fuck, to watch Michael
Yeah,
Jordan
dude, come on, man. We lived through it. We got to see it happen live, man.
on NBC.
And see, if we point to the fact, say LeBron plays for another 5 years and wins 3, he's got 4 now. Say he wins 3 championships and he has 7. I think you put an asterisk next to that when you're comparing him to Jordan because he played longer to get those.
Yeah.
I think if Jordan played another 4 years after that 97 championship, 98, there's a chance that they would have, if they kept that core together, they would have won maybe 1 or 2
So
more.
here's the thing: the teams that LeBron won championships with were great teams. The teams that he took to the finals, the other 6 times, were shit teams.
Yeah.
He took garbage
he did.
NBA talent that was not playing and took them to the finals in
But see,
stacked divisions.
That's not going to be the narrative, though. The narrative is going to be that he lost 6 times in the finals,
Yeah,
which is already what the narrative
and I
is.
think
Yeah.
part of it is it also shows how much of a winner he is
Yeah.
over 10 years to be in the finals.
Think
10,
about how
50
many times he made it just to the final. It was a
That's pretty
shoo-in
phenomenal.
that was pretty good. So you wanted to be on his team.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that and Jordan had people that didn't want to be on his fucking
Oh, yeah.
team.
Yeah.
But you really
But
wanted to be
Jordan
on
had a lot of
LeBron's
talent,
team.
and I think the thing that people don't talk about a lot is Jordan had phenomenal coaches. phenomenal. Fucking
Yeah.
Phil Jackson, brilliant. LeBron's had only rookie coaches.
Yeah, he's
Frank
coached the
Vogel's
team.
his only non-rookie coach, but every other coach that he had was a rookie when he got him.
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue was a rookie. David Blatt was a rookie. Spoelstra was a rookie when he got him in Miami. Even his very first coach in Cleveland, they're all rookie coaches.
Yeah.
So he never had that czar, the master, to kind of craft an offense for him, right?
Yeah.
He was just so explosive. Everyone just had to kind of follow the lead, right?
And Michael was the master. Like Michael
Dude, Phil
is the
Jackson is a
master.
genius. Look what he did with Kobe.
Yeah.
He
look what
literally
did with
maneuvered
him.
Kobe and Shaq like chess pieces.
Yeah.
And then he did the same thing with Kobe and Pau Gasol. I don't think Phil Jackson gets enough credit for using talent like Kobe, because Kobe's a fucking maniac.
Yeah. He had a few wasted years.
Yeah.
Kobe
Yeah.
Kobe is my number one.
Yeah,
And-
I love Kobe too.
And LeBron is my number 2. And Mike is my number 3.
Wow.
I mean, I give you props for putting Kobe ahead of LeBron.
Kobe, I think, is the most amazing ball player that's ever played. I just, the shit that guy's done, and from such a young age, and because I think also I saw his whole life from being a teenager, and just the growth that he had with Shaq, like that whole shit, like.
Dude, my third is
amazing.
Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, he was great too.
He's my
LeBron,
fourth.
Jordan, Olajuwon.
And see, the thing with, for me as a basketball viewer, when I was watching Jordan when I was younger, I wasn't watching him because of the stats he put up. I was watching him because it was just so much fun to watch him. Same with Kobe. Not that it can't be fun to watch LeBron, but
LeBron's the greatest.
I just find that he lacks the grace and the flair that a Kobe or Michael had. The way that they played, the elegance that they played with. LeBron's not about elegance. He's
No,
about
it's
just
power.
ramming it to the hole.
Power.
Power.
Even
Yeah.
a shot is not my
Yeah.
favorite looking shot. Where Kobe,
It's
when he hung
poetry.
in the air, with his fadeaways.
Oh,
whatever,
it's
just-
gorgeous.
I love seeing it.
LeBron had the benefit of so many white kids making it to college basketball and making it in the NBA with a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
And
Surround
everybody,
LeBron.
the whole 3-point era that came allowed short people to be successful in the NBA, which he knew that if he just took power, these fucking midgets aren't going to, little basketball players aren't going to stop me. I'm 260
Yeah.
and 6,
I think that's the difference too. When you look at them, when you look at Kobe and MJ,
It's
they're
crazy.
they're prototypes of each other. Like Kobe copies everything MJ
Oh, yeah,
does
and
to
he
perfection,
admitted it.
and added his own flair to it.
Yeah.
LeBron's body type is different. He's
Yeah.
built like a tank. He can only play one way. But I think I'm obviously a huge fan. I've seen him refine
know
so
you
many
are.
parts of his game over the years. He's really transformed because you can't just dunk on everybody all the time, right?
No.
His past 6-7 years, he's developed a fadeaway, a jump shot. But we can talk about basketball forever.
Yeah, and I get really offensive about it. I apologize.
I gotta give you another
I
top three.
apologize.
I gotta give you another top 3. This is gonna be a fucking difficult one. Top 3 greatest albums, no genre specific.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I like this because he's a rock
That's
guy.
why, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up a rock guy. That was my.
I just had Bon Jovi and shit.
Dude, I
My
went
chest.
deep in rock.
So I'm gonna think about just albums that were super influential to me. Sure, I'll have to put Nevermind by Nirvana up there. See, my gut wants me to put a Michael Jackson album up there too again. Between Thriller and Bad, I've got to put one of those up there. And then I'm a super big grunge guy, and there's so many great grunge albums from the 90s. But I'm also, I mentioned them earlier, a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan. And they've really influenced the way that I sing. So I'm going to put Lullabies to Paralyze by Queens of the Stone Age up
Wow.
there too. This is 3 albums. I've got like top
Wow.
50.
That's
so
pretty
it's-
dope.
I've never heard that album ever in my life.
Which one, the Queens?
The last one that he mentioned.
Yeah, neither have I.
I haven't even heard of it.
I've heard of the band many times.
They're defined as stoner rock. I think you guys would dig them if you tried.
So so obviously you're
It's awesome.
music
It's a
lover,
great
musician, right? Do you have ambitions of doing something one day with the music?
Yeah, recently Robin got me into this movie called Inside Llewyn Davis. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's an Oscar Isaac movie directed by the Coen brothers.
Okay.
And it's going to sound weird. It's a movie about folk music. And so over the last few months, I'd been like basically obsessing about certain songs on this album. And I got into thinking about taking a step into folk music. I know that sounds crazy,
Bro.
but bringing it into like an urban, because when you think of folk music, you almost kind of think of country kind of vibe.
I think of rhythmless instruments.
I think of like Billie Eilish.
No.
That's like emo pop.
Well, that's what it sounds sad, right? Like kind
Okay,
of.
so here's the thing. I
When
know
think
you.
of old folk music, I think of the mamas and the papas.
Sure,
Okay,
yeah, but
okay.
I wanted to bring what folk music was, which it's so different depending on the artist that you're thinking of, but bringing it to a kind of
An urban level.
exactly, but what it means for me to live in a city like Vancouver, because for people in my generation living in Vancouver, I think they're completely forgotten. People that work, jobs that maybe pay 16, 17 an hour, you could find a place to rent or whatever, but you're struggling.
You're not living.
Yeah.
You're not living.
You're just
So-
surviving.
And I think the government forgets about people in that realm. I think employees, employers, real estate market, this entire generation of people, which might make up a significant portion of our population here, are completely forgotten. So that was where my mindset was around getting into folk and making it really human music about humans like me.
I know you got the side of you. I remember we used to have long hair.
Right.
Yeah.
I used to have hair down to
Me
my...
too.
You used to be like
Really?
you used to be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Brown Jesus for
Yeah,
a little
that's
while.
what people used to call me.
Yeah. So we've been fortunate whenever we sit down together
Yeah.
and bring out the guitar, we just make music
Dope.
and shit just flows real naturally. So High Phrase exclusive, we want to do a little a piece,
You always bring the live music.
something, right?
This is good.
It's kind of what this podcast is about, right? Artists expressing their vibes. So we have a
Love
song
it.
called Waiting on Change. And Amir over here plays the guitar and sings and writes. And normally when we perform this live, he just kind of does his thing and then I'll just freestyle. So we're going to give you a little recreation of what we do when we're live.
Make sure I've got it here. Sitting here waiting on change.
Waiting on change, waiting on change, yeah.
Sitting here waiting in pain.
Waiting in pain, got me
I gotta
waiting
grab
in
the guitar
pain, yeah.
'cause, I'm not finding the. That doesn't sound right. The melody.
It's
No, it's. I'm in a different.
do
octave.
you want to hear it?
No, it's just the way I've got it tuned right now. It's gonna take too long to detune it. Let me see if I can find the range here. Actually, I might be able to.
You didn't really say any asshole things.
That's so weird.
What's? Oh, I hear what you're hearing, but how would you change it?
Oh wait. No.
Did you teach yourself how to play?
Yeah.
Were you guys competitively, musically competitive?
Nah.
I don't think so. No.
Did you guys play
Well-
a lot together, write a lot of songs
Well,
together?
when he had ended up moving down or moving out, I was like 10, 11 when you and Rosie got married, and
2000.
I would have been 12.
So you
So,
guys had a little bit of time in the house.
oh yeah,
We weren't competitive.
no, we used to basically just play video games together. but
Yeah.
The only sort of musical connection we had was the music that they would listen to, was the music that influenced me as a kid. So,
Nice. Did you ever like artists like Usher?
oh, I used to love Usher.
What's your favorite Usher song?
It's got to be something from the Confessions album.
This is my confession. What about R. Kelly?
Also, yeah, early R. Kelly.
Early R. Kelly. Bump
like-
and Grind?
No, like Step in the Name of Love.
Step in the
era.
name of
I
love.
love that song. Let's hear it. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. There it is.
Now we got it.
Yeah, that's money.
We're
right there.
waiting on a change of an octave.
Yeah.
Eh?
The song is very topical. Yeah.
Sitting here waiting on change.
Waiting on change. Waiting on change. Yeah.
Sitting here waiting in pain.
Waiting in pain. Got me waiting in pain. Yeah.
Sitting watching dreams fade.
Watch the fade. So far away. Yeah.
Sitting here waiting on change.
Waiting on change. Got me waiting on change. Waiting on change. Yeah.
Hand on the gun. Where you gonna run to now? Life on the street. You gotta find a way how. Is it tomorrow or yesterday? Time doesn't mean too much to him. And on the sidewalks are skeletons, gasping for air without oxygen. Living a life of sin.
Sin.
But what is sin without religion? And why does it matter what skin you're in? So I'm sitting, waiting, wishing.
Yeah.
Sitting here waiting on change.
Waiting on change. Waiting on change. Yeah.
Sitting here waiting in pain.
Waiting in pain. Got me waiting in pain. Yeah.
Just sitting watching dreams fade.
Fade. So far away. Yeah.
Just sitting here waiting on change.
Change. Got me waiting on change. Yeah. Yeah. Got me waiting on change, trying to find a better day. Looking in the mirror and the image not the same. Not knowing where to go or where I came from. Try to make do, try to make the way I came from somewhat of a success. Try to stay blessed, try to represent the skin that I live in. But sometimes it feels like a sin coming over me all the time with no grin to look at, just a sign of despair. Try to care, but not really knowing who's in the mirror. The ALI to the T to the E. A mirror on my right, mic in front of me. High Phrase Podcast, we waiting on change. Waiting on change, waiting for a better day. Don't know if it's coming, don't know if it's came. ALITE, spitting flows off the brain, yeah. Waiting on change, waiting on change.
Sitting here waiting on change.
Waiting on change, waiting on change, yeah.
Just sitting here waiting in pain.
Waiting in pain, got me waiting in pain, yeah.
Just sitting watching dreams fade.
Fade, 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 so far away,
Sitting
yeah.
here waiting on change.
Cheer.
Little freestyle there.
Little freestyle.
You guys are good together.
High Phrase Podcast, what we do.
You guys sound good together. Why don't
Yeah.
you guys do more like that?
We thought about it.
Yeah, you guys should be doing
Time,
more.
man. Every time we sit together, we make music that comes out pretty easy, so it's just a matter of time.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right, so totally self-taught.
Yeah, I started in high school. This was
good.
super simple compared to like some of the stuff that I play now. But
This is light work. He calls it light work.
All right, so tell us before we go something that nobody knows about you that we would be like, oh, really? That's pretty interesting.
I think folk music was one of them for me.
Totally.
Yeah, folk music is it's pretty unique. But there's something else. There's something for
Something that not a lot of people know about, maybe a
Yeah.
couple, including you now, that I'm seriously considering getting into boxing. Not necessarily
Nice.
In terms of like getting to leagues and
Yeah.
fighting and stuff, but I
Yeah.
want to train in a way where I know that
Awesome.
I could.
Interesting. He's a former professional
I got the gloves
boxer.
up there, and I was wondering. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had a little time in there, right? But injuries and stuff had to make me step away.
Don't downplay it. You did some shit.
Yeah, I did some shit. I hate
I was
that.
telling him a couple of days ago, I just went into this during COVID, this crazy deep rabbit hole of classic boxing and watching tons of Ali and stuff. And just like,
So
Ooh.
super inspired.
top 3 boxers that you've seen that you like?
Ooh.
How can I not put Ali at the top of
Ali.
that list?
Goat.
Hagler
Wow.
and
That was my guy.
Wow.
Sugar Ray Leonard. And a lot of it is because of the battles that those two had.
Amazing middleweight battles back
Him
then.
going into that first Hagler fight as the absolute favorite, super disappointing loss, and not knowing if he could come back from that, and the next fight just powering through that
Dude,
and coming back. From
Hagler
that.
has a jaw of iron.
Yeah.
He was
It's
amazing.
just stupid.
Can't
So,
win.
so Tyson's not on your list?
Tyson for philosophical reasons. It's not the top. I'd still consider him one of the best boxers, but his
Well, he was just a brutal fighter. When he had to box, he didn't really win fights.
Nah, he had to fight.
yeah.
He had to fight or lose.
Which
That
is
was
why
it.
Lennox picked him apart,
Foreman
right?
wasn't. A lot of people didn't consider Foreman a good boxer. He just could punch so hard that
he
it
could
mattered.
take a punch.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Right? Crazy
Brick
defense.
body.
My favorite boxer is Tony Tucker.
Tony Tucker.
Yeah.
What era is he from?
Oh, yeah. See?
80s, right?
Oh, whippersnapper.
Did he fight Ali?
So
no, if he was
no.
in the 80s, no, you wouldn't know.
No, he was in the 80s. He has a pretty good record. He took Mike Tyson the distance.
Oh, right. Okay, I know who you're talking
Boston
about.
decision.
Yeah.
Bullshit decision. He
You
was
think
the
you
go-
won that fight?
Yes, I do.
Are you serious?
Well, yes, that's why he's my favorite boxer. Of course, I think he won that fight.
Huh.
He had him. He
I thought Tyson won that fight.
wobbled him.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
knocked him down.
But he got up pretty quick.
Yeah. And he also was the only boxer to have 3 separate fighters give up the title that they held instead of fighting him. So each time that they were supposed to fight him, they just vacated the title.
But he was never a champ.
Yeah, he was a champ, and he only held on to it for maybe 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, there's too
And
many
then he
organizations in boxing with the
Yeah, it was-
WBO, WBF,
It was
IBF.
too scandalous back then.
Yeah.
It was Don King and making money, and he
Schmuck.
wasn't going to conform. But
Fucking schmuck,
dude,
that guy.
George Foreman backed out on a fight with him. Evander Holyfield, right?
Dude, Don
He
King's
beat
been
all the
raping
greats.
boxers since the 70s.
He beat everyone.
The original pimp.
Yeah.
We
The
start with
original
pimping,
guy.
we end with pimping.
Yeah, man.
Pimping makes the world go around.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting pimped. We're trying to pimp this show.
Yeah. Hey, you want to pimp me? Just take me.
Throw a check. We come as is.
Yeah. I'll talk about anything. We'll talk about anything. Well, almost anything, right?
Do you want people to find you on social media?
Yeah, I know. Thanks for putting up with us today. You know, we
no,
try
it's
to
fun.
just kind of keep it light. I know you're in such a serious atmosphere with the news and shit all the time around there.
It's not serious.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. Who's your favorite personality there?
I can't not say Lynda
How-
Steele.
Oh, you can't say it on here. Yeah, Lynda's is so good though. She's good. I'm gonna call in, and I'm gonna start to become more of a contributor, as in calling. You've inspired me today.
Do it. We also have a buzz line that you can call if you just want to leave a voicemail.
Yeah, tell me what the buzz line is too.
604-331-BUZZ.
All right, I'm gonna.
You're going to get daily voicemails from my
Well, I am, because I call in all the time, right? I call in all the time, and then I get kind of scared, right? Because I call in and I'm like, and I hang up before the before he answers, right? I'm like, no, I don't want to say anything today, right? Because then
I'm really nice on the phone. when
You're
people
really
call
good.
in. Oh, yeah.
Just do it
I
in
know
different
we've talked.
voices. Just call it in different voices.
Yeah, you could do that. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, he sounds really pleasant, right? If you
Yeah.
when you don't see him, just think he's a white guy.
You
No,
can find me
no,
on
Amir.
Instagram.
Amir, you don't think he's a white guy? It's Amir.
Well, his name is ethnic, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess.
But anyways, where do people
Radio
find you?
Optical Gaga. Instagram. I need more followers.
Radio
on
Optical
Instagram,
Gaga. Yeah, let's build that page up a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is good, man. You know, hopefully in the next little bit we'll have sponsors who will help us actually promote our guests a lot more.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
So that's going to be cool, man. That's the next couple months. 2021 looks like a good thing. So I'm glad we got you on.
Yeah, again,
you know,
appreciate
we
the
established
invite.
you on
Ground
here.
level.
And the next time that you'll be around on the podcast, we'll be way more organized because, well, we like to have a loose introduction.
Free conversation.
We like to have a free, loose conversation. The next time we put you to work,
All right.
right? So
ready, man.
It's so good to see you. Man.
Where do they find you?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, check this out. My band, my iHeartRadio band is. Oh, can I even say that? Well, my iHeartRadio band is almost. I don't want them to sue me for nothing. I submitted a show to them, and they said, when you submit a show to us, we now own the rights to that show for 6 months. So you have 6 months until you can.
Has that not been 6 months yet?
It's been 6 months. It's coming out.
Okay.
Damn.
Boom, I made it. And I don't see the show out there anywhere. So it's like, good, right? They're solid. They stuck to the deal. They fucking filed the garbage. They're like, that's junk.
No one's gonna want that shit. Put it away.
Filing under G. Right? They've probably said that. So, but now it's coming. So I'm going to have a whole new, I deleted all my social media because check this out. And you may appreciate this. I started logging all my time that I was on social media.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do 1 hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, right? 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, right? You just logged them all in there. And then I looked, and at the end of the week, I was up to almost 23 hours of social media after 1 week. So I'd lose a day a week on social media.
That's nuts, man.
I documented, my girl's like, you're an idiot. Right? And I'm just like, well, don't say it like that. Like that's just harsh, man. Like I'm trying to better myself, right? I'm trying to better myself, and she's like, you're an idiot, right? But think about that, 23 hours I lost. Yeah. So I cut all my social media. I was like, this is it. I'm done.
So the original question was,
yeah.
Do you remember what the original question was? I said, where can they find you, Mike?
Oh, sorry.
That's a long way of saying you can't fucking find Mike.
But you will soon.
If you want to find Mike, hit me up.
Yeah.
It's Alite, ALITE. You know what it is. High Phrase Podcast, ACDJ.
Thank you, sir.
Amir, Alite. Peace.
And listen to CKNW. Because
I don't think they need our endorsement.
No.
I think we need CKNW to shout High Phrase Podcast out. That's what we really need.
I'm going to tell you something. When you're rolling, and this is after podcast talk we're on.
Post-podcast.
So, kids, I'm going to give you some advice right now. And I want you, sir, because I know you're going to agree with me. When you're rolling down the street in the car, don't turn on the music.
Okay, never mind.
The music makes you dumb.
Yeah, man.
You need to listen to talk radio. Talk radio will make you smarter.
Totally. Stay
Isn't that true?
Yeah, stay informed. Even if you don't agree, you know.
You know what kids just heard?
Well, this is the problem. They're too busy talking and not listening to adults talking.
They're too busy listening to Cardi B, man.
What's his name? The old feller, the guy is on at night. Canadian Common Sense. Canadian Common Sense. Gem.
Yeah. Oh, he goes deep, man. He just gets right in there.
Gets right in the spine of Canada.
They have a good website, Canadian
He's
Common
awesome.
Sense.
He starts off by saying, "Good evening, Canadians."
Yes, good evening, Canadians. Start some Canadian Common Sense.
Canada's kitchen table.
Very
yes,
gruff.
he's awesome. Right? And you know who else I really liked? And he jumped, I don't know where he went, was Drex.
Oh, he's the morning show at Jack now. Jack 96.9.
Oh, is that where he is?
Yeah, he wanted a more primetime slot. And
yeah, he probably deserved it, man.
He was great. I really liked him.
Yeah, I do really like him. He was good.
I don't know. Anybody you guys are talking about?
I find it crazy that he does know any of these people because it's actually surprising the amount of people that listen to talk radio.
He's a real listener.
Yeah, because apparently Lynda gets approached by people all the time, like, "Oh, you're Lynda," you know, like,
Steele.
And
Jody Vance.
It's and people that are young, like it's like what young people listen to the station. It's weird. To me.
It's so important you listen to talk radio. It's like that's why podcasts have taken off so much.
I listen to a lot of
really
podcasts.
Cool, and yeah, you know who Jody Vance is if you saw her. She used to do sports on CBC and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's been around for fucking decades.
Yeah, it's forever.
Yeah, she's really cool.
There's
It was so surreal working with her for the first time because again, this person that you see on TV like as a kid.
Now in front of you.
Same with Simi Sarah. She used to do breakfast TV and like.
I always remember her
working in the office.
I did intern work on her live morning
BTV,
show.
right?
Yeah.
What's the best way to become successful in entertainment? Do you think? In entertainment, like if you're going to give someone some advice today on the business, what would you say?
Man,
to become even a broadcaster.
So I got lucky with how I got in, but like from a more I guess like mic facing position, honestly, connections are so incredibly important. I don't even have the connections that some of the hosts and stuff do, but that combined with it's going to be very cliche sounding, but I obviously got in with zero experience, but experience matters a lot. And honestly, even like podcast experience like this, I think would pay dividends.
Well, you did a lot of that stuff with the co-op radio station.
That's true too. I did have some experience at co-op. I worked at co-op for maybe 2 years before I got.
That's a long run because you learn the boards in those places.
That's how I got my job at CKNW was because I was applying for purely a board operator.
And you didn't get paid for 2 years.
at Co-op Radio. I volunteered.
Did you hear that? And you get paid for
Wow.
2 years.
That's the true secret. Is
Yeah.
So
be
work
willing to do it
hard.
for free.
Work hard and not worry about getting noticed.
And I
Yeah.
did it for free with something I was passionate. So that's another key. Do it for something you're passionate.
Oh,
about,
it was the
'cause
Animal Rights radio
Yeah.
station.
Co-op
right?
Radio, they do a Friday afternoon animal rights show. And that's what I was volunteering
right.
on. So I was doing something for free that I wanted to be doing, and obviously I was rewarded for it in the end.
We didn't even go into that conversation of activism because we're both active in our own spaces. Like, our parents aren't activists.
No.
Where do you guys get the activists
I don't know.
from?
There's no activists in our family.
I think maybe I honestly think a lot of it is because of the way that we were raised. I think maybe subconsciously we want to rebel against maybe our upbringing. Maybe this is just a weird way of us outletting it. I don't know, but that's I think part. No, that's not it for me. I don't
Do you
know.
think maybe it was like growing up in Vancouver that it made you guys experience some things that you like all of a sudden said, well, I want to look at what I'm feeling here, and then
Honestly, for me, man,
like, is it because
for
it
me,
has
it was
to be
noticing
environment?
for me, it was noticing the internal racism patterns within my own
It has to
family.
be.
The first time I was exposed to racism was within
Internalism.
my own family, right? When people would call me like, there's a word that they use in Fiji Hindi,
is it?
sawad.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's a word that they call kids that are darker skinned.
Yeah.
They use that word sawad, and it basically describes a darker skinned kid that's they're good looking but they're darker skinned, right? So that's kind of like the first terminology. So all the racism I encountered originally was internal, so I knew it was there. That for me, that's what made me like, why the fuck do we hate
That's really hard.
everything with dark skin so much, right?
I think if I was to theorize for my reasoning, it's being, I don't know if this was your experience or not, but I was always stifled as a kid, especially when it came to religion and stuff. And just, I don't know if you remember this, our mom used to make this face, like say we'd go over to like Muni Auntie's house, one of our aunt's house, and something had been said within the family that I wanted to bring up to my aunt. My mom would give me this face, like don't bring that up here. Like I wasn't allowed to express myself. Or if I, was being told to, I don't know again if this was the case for you, but I was forced to go to like Arabic classes to learn the
wow.
Quran. I never
We all
wanted to.
we all were.
I always
Yeah.
actively expressed how much I didn't want to, but I had no choice. So
Yeah.
I think maybe some of those things contributed to now being, wanting to
tough.
express myself as much as possible about things.
Yeah, and like I know for me for sure, now I can see the progression of events for me. It started off there, and it kind of built up into like the very first time I heard somebody call me the N-word. I was like 11 years old, walking home with artists. We were like coming home from like the Rogers video renting movies, and a jeep with white dudes just drove past and yelled out N-words to us. Like
Crazy.
11 years old, and we thought we were tough kids,
Yeah.
but they were fucking grown adults,
Wow.
right? So we were like, fuck you, whatever, and they just drove off.
That's
but
so weird. I had a completely different experience with the N-word, where there were the kids that were the darkest in high school were called the N-word by other brown kids that were light skinned.
yeah,
Oh, wow,
yeah,
yeah,
I got that too. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and once I started to see a lot of that self-hate, it really made me kind of go inside and think. And then I found Malcolm, and reading the Malcolm X books really just transformed my thinking, man. It completely changed the way, obviously,
Yeah.
it completely changed the way I felt about myself, and then that completely changed the way I felt about everything else around me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Did
life-changing.
Did you have a spark? His was like, did you have a spark at all?
I don't know. That's,
Incident
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. The very first book I was showing my girlfriend. She wanted to watch One Night in Miami, but she had no context for who Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali was. So I went down this rabbit hole with her of these people. And I remember that one of the very first books I read, because he had owned it in high school, was the autobiography of Malcolm X. So there's nothing I can think of like as a very sort of active, conscious spark in my head, but there's a ton of influences that were sparks, I'm sure. And again, I'm going to go back to fucking Michael Jackson again, because for me, he'd always been a spark, because he in many ways was an activist. As
Hell
well
yeah, he was.
with his music.
Yeah,
Black
man.
and white, when he'd got on top of the car and started smashing.
Oh,
shit
yeah,
and
yeah.
Stuff. Like that was
Dude, going to
crazy for me.
Brazil in the favelas and doing a video with like actual murderers in the favelas is insane, man.
There was nothing that was like, damn, I saw that, and I'm gonna go into action. But there was a lot of this consistent stuff growing up that I'm sure had sort of stuck in my mind.
Yeah, and I know for me it was a confluence of events, because you met Queasy, and this guy on the poster here, when we all met each other, it was just like
Yeah.
a cascade of events. We ended up connecting with like a Filipino youth group that was
Yeah.
fighting for equality for like living caregivers that were come from the Philippines and live with rich white families and not get paid properly. So we were kind of like thrown into this super people that were fighting for women's rights and liberation as artists. So we kind of ended up being like the artists every time there were rallies and protests. So we were kind of like thrown into being activists without even knowing it. And we got like exposed to all this amazing organization from all these brilliant young people.
Crazy.
And yeah, it was life altering, man. Because a lot of these kids, 16, 17, 18 years old, are organizing rallies that hundreds of people are showing up to.
Yeah.
It's power, man.
Wow,
It's incredible
that's
power,
crazy.
man. Yeah.
So good.
So it's fun to watch. That's why I love activists being on here. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
dope.
the activists too.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, no, again, it was a lot of fun. And
You should do your own podcast.
It's definitely something I've thought about. It's just thinking of what the topic and topics would be,
Yeah.
which I've never really settled on. Like, there's a lot of stuff like gaming that I'm into, where I've thought about doing stuff like that. Obviously, not as important, not very activist mindset.
No, it's all
behind
good.
that.
I don't think
Creating
it needs
is
to be-
creating.
No, yeah, no.
It's about being in the creative space.
Yeah, I think, you know what, quite honestly, I think a guy like you talking about 90s rock would be huge, would be really good.
I never thought about that.
No, I'm telling you, the way you talked about it, and the fact you said Nirvana was your favorite, album, and just the fact that you're a brown guy talking about 90s
It's
rock.
funny, like when I used to go to rock shows, I'd literally be the only brown person in the fucking in the concert hall.
That's your podcast, man.
I believe it. And I'm sure there's other brown guys that
Telling
listen to
you.
rock too.
They'll come out.
Yeah, they'll come out of the closet because they'll have someone to look at like, he looks like me.
Telling
I
you,
can
you
talk
have a
about it.
market here in BC for it. You have a market for it because
Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
hit
interesting
40-year-old guys who grew up in that era like me, right? And there's how many brown guys do we have here? So many. Buddy.
So many.
Our 40s and their 40s and 50s and shit would listen to you.
I could call it the brown guy at the rock concert.
You should.